Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Marvel. I become Destroyer. Then destroy the Marvel world. It starts. Chapter 1. Task. Destroy the Marvel Cinematic Universe world. Initial prop. Zombie virus original liquid. Condition. 99% of humans on the Earth mutate into zombies. Reward. Reality return portal. 1/7. Please work hard to destroy the world. Reincarnation 10087. Chen Lu. Why did it become like this? Chen Lu touched his dizzy head, desperately thinking about what he had done and needed to be treated like this. In fact, the beginning of everything is very simple, but a message suddenly popped up on his computer. Do you want to protect this world? Or destroy it? Defend, destroy. Chen Lu thought to press as usual. The red cross in the upper right corner, but under the fascination of the ghost, he pressed, destroy, and everything started. 2 syringes filled with crystal clear liquid like sapphire lay tightly in Chen Lu's palm. There is no doubt that this is what the system calls the Resident Evil virus. When Chen Lu took it in the palm of his hand and checked it carefully, a system prompt sounded in his mind. Name. Zombie virus stock solution. Function. 1. Injection. Immediately completely change all physical structures in an organism. There is a small chance to mutate into a virus matrix, a certain chance to mutate into a special infection, and a larger chance to mutate into an ordinary zombie. 2. Spread. Let the virus evaporate and spread through the air, infect all humans within 5 kilometers in diameter, and mutate into ordinary zombies within 24 hours. Note: I know you definitely want to give yourself a shot, but believe me, your luck may not be so good. With these 2 things, is it really possible for me to destroy this world? Chen Lu touched his head, wondering if there was something wrong with this traversing system. He ordered the destruction of the world as soon as he came up. Judging from its tone, it seems that there is no other choice for the task afterwards. Is this really okay? Let a person who has never seen blood kill 7 billion people, including superheroes. Reality returns to the portal. 1/7, which means that I will be able to return to reality after collecting 7 destroyed worlds. There was a little hope in Chen Lu's heart, but he couldn't feel optimistic. He hasn't read the comics of Marvel World very much, but the well-known movie Chen Lu is still clear. If you want to destroy this world, the Avengers, X-Men, and even some supervillains will definitely not let yourself go. What kind of harm can be done to those steel and iron superheroes just by small zombies? Just the Hulk can single out 7 billion zombies in the world. Hopeless. Chen Lu looked at the sky indistinguishable from his hometown, and smiled helplessly. Family, friends, and favorite girls can't look up at the same starry sky with him now. Coming into this world, alone, with the burden of destroying the world, what is this? Chen Lu walked out of the alley where he descended, and there was a night view of a bustling city. Although every word was in English, Chen Lu could understand every word. Needless to say, this is a ghost of the system. I only have a few yuan in my pocket, and it goes without saying that it is definitely not universal in the United States. Suddenly a hard object hit the back of Chen Lu's head, and at the same time a male voice came from behind. Don't move, hand over all the valuables. I don't know who made the rules. A world with superheroes must have poor security. I didn't expect Chen Lu to run into it as soon as he arrived in this world. Needless to say, the thick black one on the back of his head knew that it was a barrel, so Chen Lu had to obediently raise his hands. Man, you found the wrong person, I'm a complete pauper. Under the control of the system, Chen Lu Hua is fluent in American English as soon as he speaks, and he slowly takes no surprises about it. It's a pity that the little fool completely ignored Chen Lu and began to touch him unscrupulously. In the end, apart from the few yuan he threw away as waste paper, he only touched 2 tubes of zombie virus stock. What is this? The gangster looked at the 2 tubes of zombie virus stock solution curiously. The crystal blue seemed to tell him that this thing was extraordinary. He showed an intoxicated smile and pushed Chen Lu to ask, "Hey, yellow-skinned monkey, I want to ask you something. It is used like this." While the fool focused all of his attention on the zombie virus stock solution, Chen Lu quickly turned around and opened the barrel of the gun, hitting the fool's nose with a violent punch. Where did the little think that this unarmed guy dared to resist himself with the gun, and was beaten by Chen Lu with a nosebleed, and Venus went straight up. It should be understood that the bridge of the nose has always been the weakness of human beings. The gangster was directly stunned by this punch, and the zombie virus stock and the pistol were dropped. Your boxing caused 11 physical damage to the bully, 11% of total health. A critical attack with a blunt head resulted in a critical strike, and the bully entered a state of dizziness and slight bleeding. Chen Lu, who succeeded in one blow, didn't have time to stay. He caught 2 tubes of zombie virus stock solution in the air and ran away. This was his only hope for going home, and he could not discard it anyway. After a few seconds, the fool woke up, took a whistle from his pocket and blew it loudly. A sharp whistle sounded through the street, and then Chen Lu saw dozens of punks wearing the same white clothes rushing out from all corners of the street. Yu read www.yuakanshu.com and he heard it behind him. Shouted, "Grab the yellow-skinned monkey." Countless gang members flew towards Chen Lu, and the whole street was basically covered by their people. Chen Lu hesitated for a second, and could only bite the bullet and crash into the dark and narrow alley on the side. Basically, doing it here means giving up the opportunity to receive police rescue, but at least there is still a glimmer of life. Behind him sounded the footsteps of dozens of people, even with the sound of several bullets being loaded. Chen Lu could only hold back a desperate run, and overturned it when he saw anything in the middle to slow down the speed of chasing soldiers. Instead, they caused them to shoot directly. The intensive gunfire reverberated in the alley, and Chen Lu could even see the sparks from the bullet swishing past his side. It seems that their actions are in the arms of the opponent, and they can shoot as much as they want in this sparsely populated place. A bullet hit Chen Lu's thigh, causing him to stagger and fall to the ground. When he looked down, there was a blood flow under his feet, and his muscles were twitching due to severe pain. Chen Lu exhausted his last strength and climbed into a corner, leaning his back against the wall, and the sound of the enemy's footsteps was getting closer. Unexpectedly, it would become like this. Chen Lu put his head on the wall, with a miserable smile on his face. What choice would he have next? "I caught you, yellow monkey." Several gang members entered the corner and saw Chen Lu, who was unable to move due to his injuries, with a sadistic smile on his face. Without hesitation, he raised his pistol and shot bullets into his, in vivo. Boom, bang, bang. You were attacked by a member of the 3M gang and lost 32 health, total health 32%. You were attacked by a member of the 3M gang and lost 48 health, 48% of total health. You were attacked by a member of the 3M gang and lost 45 health, 45% of total health. You are in a state of dying. Please restore your health to more than 0 within 3 minutes. Even if the system didn't remind him, Chen Lu could feel that his life was passing little by little, and the coldness of death gradually took away his consciousness. The whole body relaxed involuntarily, and a syringe that had been emptied by the injection slipped from his fingertips. Finally, Chen Lu raised his head and fixed his vision in the night sky, not knowing which star he was staring at. "I wasted a few bullets, bah." A gang member knelt down and approached Chen Lu's body, groping up and down in his clothes for any valuables. Of course, Chen Lu had nothing but a tube of zombie virus stock. However, they were still shocked by the wonderful color of the zombie virus stock solution, happily thinking that this would be something valuable, but did not notice that Chen Lu's finger moved slightly. The body structure is being changed. Mutated successfully. You have become a special infected person, metal mutant. You are out of dying state. A gang member who was still talking about today's gains with joy and laughter was horrified and discovered that Chen Lu, who was shot 3 times by them and fell to the ground, stood up miraculously, and the 3 gunshot wounds on his chest had stopped bleed. He was really stunned by the strange scene in front of him, and he was taken aback for a long time before he snapped a few shots of his companions around him. "Hey, brother, brother." The other members followed his gaze and looked at Chen Lu's body, and it turned out that there was nothing but a puddle of blood there. But within a short while, Nuoda disappeared without a trace. As they looked around suspiciously, a cold voice sounded from behind them. "Are you looking for me?" Chen Lu stood behind the group of gang members with open arms, and seemed to be a bit stronger than at first. He suddenly stretched out his hand to pierce the chest of the first gang member, who turned around, as easily as he reached into his own pocket, took out a full heart from it, and then crushed it like an egg. Skill 1. Virus Touch. Use a tooth or finger to pierce the enemy's body and inject the zombie virus into the opponent. It is an ordinary person who mutates into a zombie within 24 hours, and mutant humans are particularly resistant to the virus. Zombies mutated from this skill will unconditionally obey your orders. Ah! The screams of more than a dozen gang members sounded at the same time. They raised their pistols and shook the trigger frantically with trembling fingers. A large number of bullets immediately washed all over Chen Lu's body. But in the end, none of these bullets could stop Chen Lu from advancing. Apart from tearing up his clothes in the upper half of the sound, these bullets did not cause any harm. Skill 2. High-speed self-healing. Can use biological energy to quickly heal the body, and will not die from other injuries before the brain is completely destroyed. The strong muscles began to contract and squeeze out the bullets that were only embedded in the skin. The gang members were so scared that their jaws would fall to the ground, and one by one they fell back in panic. After understanding that firearms could not pose a threat to Chen Lu, they lost their last point of fighting, and rushed to the alley exit, pushing each other against each other. Skill 3. Metallization. Transform any part of the body into any shape of biometal. Biometal cannot maintain liquid form for a long time. Chen Lu's fingers first turned into silver liquid metal, and then quickly condensed into a pair of vicious metal claws with cold and cold light. The sharp blade can still move freely like ordinary fingers. After mutating into a special infected person, his physical fitness has also been greatly improved. Chen Lu was seen to jump out 5 meters high after a few run-ups, and after stepping back and forth 2 steps on the walls on both sides of the alley. A backflip passed over the heads of all the gang members and blocked their way. Before the gang member running at the forefront had time to slow down, he slammed into Chen Lu's metal claws, and saw a cold light flashing and blood flying away. The hapless guy's eyes rounded in astonishment. 5 bloodstains appeared on his face suddenly, and his body fell to the ground like a machine without oil, and then the flesh was split into 6 pieces of meat-like building blocks stacked together. Each layer the meat slices are as clear and complete as a cross-sectional view of the human body. Ah! After seeing the tragic death of his companion, all the remaining gang members were so scared that they made strange choking noises from their organs. Fear has choked their throats so that they can't breathe. But Chen Lu will not stop there. He has nothing to pity for someone who killed himself once. With a bloodthirsty and cold smile on his face, Chen Lu slammed into the crowd, waving his anger like a dance. Double claws. Using blood as ink and meat as pen, bones turn into colorful woods, and brains turn into dots of plum blossoms. In a short while, the whole alley formed a cruel and landscape painting of Winter Plum Grove. Reading www.uakanshu.com. Seeing the hell-like horror scene in front of me, the last remaining gang members were completely frightened. Their legs weakened and knelt on the ground, looking pale with tears at Chen Lu standing in the Scarlet Alley. What a wonderful coincidence. This last survivor happened to be the little one who planned to rob Chen Lu at the beginning, but at this time he had already lost the ferocious arrogance he had just now, and his face twitched uncontrollably, as if he was giggling. Same. He is completely crazy. As long as they see this expression, anyone will come to the same conclusion. Looking at his sluggish gaze, Chen Lu gave up his plan to continue torturing him, opened the metal claws, and quickly pressed down on his Tianling guy. Hey, man, can you please calm down? With a burst of ridicule and juvenile voice coming from the other end of the alley, a few spider silks formed into a ball and fired like bullets, precisely wrapped around the metal claws raised by Chen Lu Gao, and stretched and stuck to the alley. On the walls on both sides, the metal claws of his right hand were fixed in the air with a spider web. A young man in a red tights that envelops the whole body is airtight, pulling spider silk out of the darkness from the air like Tarzan. After rolling in the air for a week, he landed on the ground in a superhero landing posture of one hand and one finger. This tight-fitted boy has a spider web-like pattern on his clothes, and there is a black spider decoration on his chest. The face mask has only 2 silver white eye frames. He immediately pointed to Chen Lu and said, "Although I know he doesn't look like a good person, no matter what he has done, we don't have the right to kill him at will." This exaggerated teenager is a famous Marvel superhero Spider-Man. Judging from his immature and young appearance, he should be called Little Spider. His real name is Peter Parker, a genetic mutation caused by a radioactive spider bite. A teenager who has acquired special abilities like spiders. As a kind-hearted and just to a bit pedantic teenager, Spider-Man naturally can't accept Chen Lu's murder in front of his own eyes. Although Chen Lu himself has just turned 18. But they want to kill me. No, they should have killed me. Chen Lu opened his body to show Spider-Man the alley with broken limbs and blood flowing behind him. Although this scene was cruel and bloody, he was already dead. Chen Lu, who was once, couldn't make any waves in his heart. He just used his own ability to fight back. Even if someone talks to him about the law, he will insist that he is a legitimate defense. Oh this. Let's pause for a while. Vomit. It seemed that this picture was too exciting for the young Spider-Man. He quickly pulled open the mask to expose his mouth, and he held the wall to spit out, before coming over for a while before breathing again. While he was vomiting, Chen Lu changed his entangled right hand into a syringe-sized needle, and effortlessly freed his right hand from the spider web, and at the same time patted the little fool's head with a paw of his left hand. Cut the head of this silly guy into a 4-layer hamburger. Spider-Man screamed when he saw it, and then said angrily, "Oh my God. I warned you. Am I still waiting for you?" Chen Lu replied coldly. Spider-Man shoots 2 strong spider silks from both hands and sticks them to the walls on both sides of the alley, and uses the elasticity of the spider silks to form a huge slingshot and launches himself. The whole person stretches his legs like an arrow from the string. Roaring with Chen Lu's face, he wanted to give him a superhero kick. It's just that the preparatory action is such a big attack that is naturally very impractical. Chen Lu only needs to lower his head, and Spider-Man's flying kick will fail. However, just after Chen Lu thought that he had escaped Spider-Man's attack, 2 spider silks suddenly struck from behind and stuck to his shoulders, and a powerful inertial force suddenly pulled him to the ground. Looking up and looking behind him, Spider-Man is looking at this side happily while pulling 2 spider silks. Caught you. Chen Lu snorted coldly. A carp stood up and turned around to wrap around the spider silk, pulled the spider silk with both hands and pulled it hard, and Spider-Man staggered 2 steps and was pulled over by him. Then Chen Lu's right hand turned into a long knife, and the tip of the knife rubbed the wall and slashed down Spider-Man's neck vigorously with a fierce flame. Wow, it's so risky. Golden sparks flew in the air, and after a silver light flashed, there was no tragic situation in the head of the body. When being pulled over by Chen Lu, Spider-Man turned his body at a right angle and stepped on the wall with 1 foot, walking on the wall like a spider, and over the top of Chen Lu's head, and walked over like a gymnast. The wall jumped back to the ground, a set of movements dexterous and gorgeous. Do you like my ability? Before Spider-Man's voice could fall, Chen Lu flexed his arm and slammed his right elbow into the back. The collision was very swift and abrupt, and it was directed at the nose under Spider-Man's mask. Seeing his unsteady landing, this elbow blow was a good deal. However, Spider-Man had already made a backward movement in advance when his body was still in the air. As soon as he landed, he quickly and dangerously dodges Chen Lu's confident blow, just like the unexplored prophet. Almost. If I don't have spider induction, I should go to the plastic surgery hospital tomorrow to register. Spider induction, Spider-Man's most troublesome ability, is essentially the 6th sense commonly known as. Spider-Man can sense all unknown dangers that are harmful to him without reason. Therefore, he can predict all attacks against him in advance, and he can also make dodge actions in advance. In other words, there is no difference between a sneak attack and a frontal attack for Spider-Man. Relying on slow punches and kicks will not cause him any damage even suddenly. In fact, while Spider-Man was still busy talking, Chen Lu had already launched a series of attacks on him, but whether he was slashing with a long knife or stabs with claws, he was deliberately pretended to be thrilled by Spider-Man. Dodge. After a fierce attack, Spider-Man didn't even get a trace of his clothes, but Chen Lu was sweating profusely, panting violently. Is it over? If you are tired, watch me perform next. Spider-Man nagging annoyingly while taking advantage of the spider's climbing ability, he ran to the top of the alley and shot the spider silk at Chen Lu condescendingly, and clusters of spherical spider silks fell on Chen Lu like raindrops. This wave of spider silk offensive was too intensive. After Chen Lu twisted his body to avoid a few clusters of spider silk, he expected that he would never be able to dodge all attacks. Reading www.uakanshu.com. He immediately picked up a large trash can beside him, and put it on his head as a shield to resist Spider-Man's spider silk offensive. More. Seeing that his spider silk was blocked by the trash can, Spider-Man was still not in a hurry, and he continued to spray more spider silk toward the trash can. A large amount of spider silk quickly accumulated a huge web on the trash can, and the spider silk began to seep through the trash can and connect to the ground. Soon the dense spider silk wrapped the big trash can together with the Chen Lu underneath, forming a huge spherical cocoon of spider silk in the alley. The layers of spider silk were impervious to the wind, like a single building. Small cage. Spider-Man returned to the ground, and said triumphantly toward the cocoon of spider silk that could completely cut off the voice, "Man, this should calm your mind a bit. Stay here and wait for the police to pick you up." Right. He is very confident that Chen Lu can't break through the layers of spider webs. You must know that Spider-Man's spider silk only needs 2 to stop the speeding train. The intensity is too great to estimate. This giant cocoon formed by consuming a lot of spider silk, let alone using long knives and claws, it is impossible to pierce it even with the battleship's main gun. Oh, I forgot that Aunt May asked me to go out to buy things. I hope the convenience store hasn't closed yet. Just as Spider-Man was about to leave work, Spider-Man felt a sudden warning of danger. He quickly sensed the giant cocoon in front of him, and found that there was no one in it, only a large trash can was stuck in the air by spider silk. Then a crack suddenly appeared under his feet and quickly enlarged, and then a figure broke out of the ground and violently attacked his chin in the form of a dragon fist. It's a pity that this surprise uppercut was still avoided by Spider-Man perverted spider induction. He leaned back like a gymnast and hit a few backflips to get away from Chen Lu and touched it. Touching his chin, pretending to be hit, teased Chen Lu. "It's so dangerous, buddy. Just a little bit, you are going to ruin my handsome chin, this is my pride." Chen Lu patted the dust on his body and said impatiently, "No one taught you not to talk so much nonsense when fighting." "Yes, many, but they are all in prison now." Spider-Man twisted his neck indifferently. Sure enough, the mouth cannon is part of Spider-Man's strength. The remaining bioenergy is less than 50%. This system prompt is undoubtedly worse for Chen Lu, and there is also a clear sense of hunger in his belly. Whether it is metallization or high-speed self-healing, bioenergy must be used as fuel. If the fuel burns out, it means that Chen Lu's death date has also arrived. The problem is that until now, Chen Lu hasn't found a way to surpass the spider induction to inflict damage on Spider-Man. The opponent's special ability is really tricky. Sneak attack is ineffective, slow attack is ineffective, and sensory interference is ineffective. In theory, there are only 2 attack methods that can hurt Spider-Man. First, a wide range of offensive methods without dead ends make Spider-Man unable to escape the damage range. Second, the ultra-high-speed offensive method makes Spider-Man too late to escape even if he senses his body. Let's try the first one first. Come on, I will hang you up in the air this time. Spider-Man once again used the spider's climbing ability to run towards the top of the building, intending to launch the spider silk to tie Chen Lu up again. He has realized that Chen Lu has no effective long-range offensive methods, so he can open the distance. Ensure your own victory. How could Chen Lu not know his weaknesses? He immediately followed Spider-Man to climb on the wall, but his climbing method relied on metallizing his foot into a climbing pick, kicking into the wall and jumping back and forth between the 2 walls to raise the height. A way of forward driven purely by brute force. Chen Lu used his feet to bring a few sands on the wall and left a deep pit, forcibly creating the effect of flying over the wall like a spider. He quickly rushed to the top of the building in front of Spider-Man, and then relied on gravity to add his own. Speeding up his feet, he dived towards Spider-Man. Spider-Man still showed a careless attitude. Having been unscathed since the start of the war, the young hero couldn't help but underestimate the enemy. "Don't waste your effort, you can't hit me." Who knows? Chen Lu's arms turned into 2 silver sharp long knives. Not only that, a sharp blade emerged from almost every joint of his body, turning himself into a human-shaped hedgehog. Then he stepped on his right foot to make him spin at a high speed in the air. A dozen sharp blades turned into a vortex of blades that were too fast to be seen by the naked eye. He turned into a giant steel spinning top and passed by Spider-Man. Eventually Chen Lu changed back to his normal posture and fell heavily on the ground. A large hole half a meter deep was smashed into the alley. There was a superficial smear of blood on his right shoulder, and the system also sent a message that made Chen Lu laugh or cry. Your blade vortex caused 23 damage to Spider-Man, 2% of total health. Spider-Man fell into a slight bleeding state. The trigger of the virus, the target, Spider-Man, the zombie virus was injected successfully, the other party has a mutant gene, was severely rejected, the physical invasion failed, and the virus entered the dormant mode. In sleep mode, the virus will restart when the opponent is weak or dead. Spider-Man fell to Chen Lu's side while clutching his chest, and immediately stood up again nonchalantly. From between his fingers, he could see that his tights had been torn open, leaving a knife mark about 3 centimeters long. The cut was very shallow, and it might not even count as a skin injury. Well, you hurt me. It doesn't seem to be very serious, but I have to tell you, it's super painful. Even with a physical injury, Spider-Man can't help but chat. Let's bear it, aren't you a superhero? Chen Lu felt a bit infected by Spider-Man's words, and even chatted with him back and forth. The situation is neither too good nor too good. In summary, it is. The good news is, Spider-Man is not absolutely impossible to hit. The zombie virus was injected successfully. The bad news is, the difficulty of hitting is too high, and the zombie virus is temporarily unable to work. It is no longer possible for Chen Lu to resort to a wider range of offensive methods than Blade Vortex, which also means that he must rely on Plan B, super high-speed offensive methods to have a chance to defeat Spider-Man. It's just that even if the Spider-Man in front of him is still young and unable to show his peak agility, things like avoiding pistol bullets are still commonplace. The initial velocity of the pistol bullet is about 300 sec, which is already very close to the speed of sound. It is estimated that in order to successfully hit Spider-Man, he must make an attack that exceeds the speed of sound. Such a speed, it is impossible to achieve it by throwing a knife or thrusting a knife on a run-up. Chen Lu's stamina is obviously worse than Spider-Man's. If he wants to escape, he will definitely not be able to run away from this guy who can swing around in the air. If Chen Lu didn't want to be thrown into jail for 10 or 8 years as soon as he entered the world, he would have to find a way to kill Spider-Man, infect him into a zombie and become his own. No way, just think about it while typing. Chen Lu changed his arm into a long knife again. At this time, he suddenly realized that the long knife that his arm turned into can be freely changed in length. In other words, this knife can be stretched at will, so that it can grow quickly. It can be done by increasing the consumption of bioenergy. Maybe there is a way. Chen Lu came up with a move that he had seen in anime. Spider-Man climbed to the top of the building again. It seems that today he is bound to use this trick to kill Chen Lu. I have to say that this is a correct judgment. If every time Chen Lu has to get ahead of him to reach the roof and then fall down to attack him, then the physical strength must be exhausted first by Chen Lu, whose original endurance is relatively poor, not to mention Chen Lu. Now the biological energy in the body has slowly bottomed out. However, looking at Spider-Man, from the beginning, he didn't even gasp. The biggest consumption before was just the spider silk. Spider-Man has never tried to spit out the spider silk, but firing the spider silk has little effect on his physical strength. According to Chen Lu's estimation, this climb is his only life before he runs out of energy. Win or lose, you have to bet on this blow. At an altitude of more than 10,000 meters from New York City, a red and gold exoskeleton mecha is steadily suspended, and the people in the mecha are ordering the built-in artificial intelligence, Jarvis, report the body resistance condition of ICE facilities. A male electronic voice replied, "The body is in good condition and the reactor is operating normally." This man in the steel armor is the famous Iron Man. The reason he is famous is that he became known to everyone from the moment he announced to the world that Tony Stark was Iron Man. The great inventor plus the world's richest man plus superheroes. As an ordinary human without any mutation, he has obtained the giant-level abilities of Marvel superheroes with only a high-tech Iron Man suit, and can be called one of the strongest superheroes. It's just that this capable guy has a very side. For example, now he is starting to figure out where to go fooling around in the middle of the night. He said to the smart program Jarvis, "Since everything is normal, I should go back and prepare for it. There will be 3 Iron Man fan parties waiting for me. Sir, I'm afraid your fan party will be ruined." Jarvis poured cold water on Tony routinely, and it opened a video frame inside the helmet, which happened to be a scene of Spider-Man and Chen Lu fiercely fighting. "I think you should go down and control the scene." "Oh, Iron Man." Tony covered his face helplessly, took a deep breath and said, "I'm not good at disciplining teenagers, this kind of thing should be left to Pepper." The words are like this. As a superhero, Tony still followed his duty, activated the jet device of the mecha and rushed to the alley where the two were fighting. At this time, the battle between Chen Lu and Spider-Man has reached a white-hot stage. While climbing the wall, Spider-Man shot Spider Silk to the top of the building to speed up his ascent by a notch, preventing Chen Lu from forcing the top of the building to use a blade vortex again. Since the blade vortex must rely on gravitational acceleration to reach a speed sufficient to hit Spider-Man, this trick is even completely sealed. Spider-Man believes that as long as the Spider Silk continues to be condescending, and Chen Li's physical strength is exhausted, he will be able to win steadily. "You are out of luck this time, right?" While he was ascending, Spider-Man still had time to make a grimace at Chen Lu, who was left behind him, but he didn't expect that the other party immediately jumped to his side and lifted the change-growth knife. It's just that this knife was easily avoided by Spider-Man relying on the spider's induction and extraordinary agility, and he continued to make faces for Chen Lu who had already come to the front. "It's almost that, you can't hurt me anymore." Facing this kind of predicament, Chen Lu couldn't help but sarcastically said, "Little spider, don't you dare to fight back." Spider-Man laughed twice. "No way. I know, you're just waiting for me to fight back, right? As long as I don't attack and show the flaws, you can't hurt me, so don't worry, I will avoid you like this for a whole god." This can be said to be a weakness where spider induction is not a weakness. When facing a known attack, there are two situations where a person cannot avoid it. First, the body acts as usual but cannot avoid it. Second, the body cannot act as usual, so it cannot escape. In the case of hand-to-hand attacks, the human body reveals flaws due to large movements, which belongs to the second situation. Therefore, when Spider-Man engages in hand-to-hand combat with masters of martial arts, he is often defeated by catching offensive flaws and ignoring spider induction. It seems that this time he has learned a lesson. As long as he doesn't attack and maintains a defensive posture at any time, Chen Lu can't hurt him, and then eventually he runs out of strength and catches him. This is Spider-Man's wishful thinking. Is such a difficult opponent. Even though his opponent was aware of his strategy, Chen Lu's face remained unmoved. In fact, as a fighting rookie, he doesn't know if he has the ability to seize the vulnerability of Spider-Man's attack to break through the spider's feeling and defeat him. Sure enough, in the end, I can only try the new moves in my own imagination. You should almost get tired, don't expect me to fall, I'm still in good spirits now. Spider-Man ridiculed Chen Lu, who was sweating on his face and his face was getting worse. He estimated that his victory was already near. It's close. The remaining bioenergy is less than 30%. Is really the last chance. Chen Lu used the long knife in his left hand to sweep towards Spider-Man's feet sticking to the wall. As expected, Spider-Man immediately shot the spider silk to the wall opposite the alley, using the spider silk to pull his body and jump towards the other wall. Passed. Chen Lu immediately followed his legs and ejected himself from the wall, and stretched out his right fist in the air to take Spider-Man's heart. It's just that because Spider-Man took off first, Chen Lu's takeoff speed was a bit slower than Spider-Man's, so the right fist he stretched out could only stare into Spider-Man's chest in the air. Kong's body really can't keep up. It's now. Just as Spider-Man was about to breathe a sigh of relief at this one who could never catch up with him, Spider-Man suddenly felt an unprecedented sense of danger. He immediately squeezed the spider silk in his hand, and could pull himself in the air to dodge at any time. At this time, his gaze met Chen Lu's cold and sharp eyes, and the other party was putting his left hand back on top of his right hand, and whispered domineeringly. "Shoot him, sharp gun." Chen Lu's right hand suddenly deformed and a long knife emerged. This long knife was formed from an extremely sharp tip. The blade formed behind pushed the tip forward at an unimaginable high speed, just like a super switchblade knife. Like a violent thrust to Spider-Man's chest, the tip of the knife easily tore through the sound barrier in midair, taking the heart of Spider-Man at a super high speed exceeding the speed of sound. In Spider-Man's spider induction, time seems to be stopped, everything around, even the sound barrier that bursts out in the air, has stopped. The only thing left in the whole world was the long knife formed by Chen Lu's right hand, which slowly pierced his heart after piercing the sound barrier. Spider-Man tried his best to control his body to dodge, but no matter how anxious he was mentally, his body remained motionless. This is the proof that the spiritual senses have surpassed the initiative of the physical body. Even if everything is clearly seen and the body is not enough to react, it is helpless. It wasn't until a sharp pain came from the chest and the body was mercilessly penetrated by the blade that time in the spiritual world of Spider-Man flowed again. However, by this time, everything was already irretrievable. I have to say that Spider-Man's reaction speed is indeed fast. As soon as his body recovered, he immediately broke the long knife that pierced his chest with a hand knife, and kicked Chen Lu away from him. Both of them consumed a lot of energy in this confrontation, and both fell helplessly to the bottom of the alley, and fell to the ground almost at the same time. Your sharp gun caused 574 physical damage to Spider-Man, 57% of total health. The sharp heart attack caused a critical strike, and Spider-Man fell into a state of severe internal bleeding, insufficient blood supply, and circulatory system collapse. The remaining bioenergy is less than 10%. Now Chen Lu has reached his limit. The shot of the sharp gun just now consumed nearly 20% of his bioenergy. Fortunately, this blow hits the target and the effect is outstanding, otherwise he would really have to catch it. The hunger that had always existed before has now become a strong sense of dizziness, and I feel that as soon as I close my eyes, I will pass out. Opposite Chen Lu, among the dust raised by the two of them falling to the ground, a figure staggered to his feet, with a broken long knife stuck in his chest. Spider-Man was also at the end of the crossbow at this time. A large amount of blood dripped from the broken knife on his body and dripped onto the ground. When he wanted to speak, he was blocked by the blood from his throat. He wanted to try to pull out the broken knife from his body, but just a light touch of the blade would cause hemorrhage from the wound. The knife just penetrated the heart directly, and his entire heart is now beating on the blade, so the slightest movement will cause the heart to bleed, let alone pull the knife out. In the end he had no choice but to give up and put his trembling hands down again. "Let me free you, little spider." What? Seeing that Spider-Man was injured so badly, Chen Lu was about to get up and give him the final blow, but was surprised to find that his body was also unable to move. Looking back, he fell right next to the giant cocoon that Spider-Man had previously woven with spider silk. Layers of spider webs entangled his body from head to tail. The terrifying stickiness and incomparable toughness make this giant cocoon a huge sticky mouse glue, and Chen Lu is the mouse that fell into the trap. Cough, puff, I still won. It turns out that the moment Spider-Man was pierced by a sharp spear, the kick of Chen Lu in the air was not only to get the distance away, but also to deliberately go to the giant cocoon on the ground. Unexpectedly, this guy could think about countermeasures so calmly and act immediately after his heart was pierced, and finally managed to trap Chen Lu in the spider web. Spider-Man is indeed an amazing superhero. Generally speaking, opponents who fight Spider-Man can fail in this situation. His spider silk has extremely terrible stickiness and almost unbreakable toughness. The enemy trapped by the spider web is basically absolutely unable to break free. In this case, instead of thinking about how to destroy the web, it is better to think about how to tear the skin stuck to the web from the body. It's just that the situation of being entangled up and down like this means that the skin of the whole body must be discarded. Fortunately, this is not impossible. In Spider-Man's startled gaze, Chen Li's skin turned silver metal, and then a tight-fitting metal film was formed on the surface, and all the spider silks on the spider web were glued to this metal film. Then the metal membrane was torn apart by one hand from the inside, just like a snake animal shed its skin. The new Chen Li broke out of the cocoon from the metal membrane that wrapped her whole body, broke free from the spider web that entangled her whole body, and stayed only on it. The next layer of human-shaped metal film. Are you the Terminator T-1000? Ahem. Can you still do this? Spider-Man, who has suffered fatal trauma, still doesn't forget to spit out, and I have to feel that he is really dedicated. I just changed the skin into a metal membrane to separate from the body, and then repaired the body with high-speed self-healing and then came out of the metal membrane. Robots can't do this. Chen Lu approached Spider-Man as he explained. His right hand changed into a cold metal claw again, and he stretched out towards Spider-Man's neck step by step. To be honest, he was a little surprised that the dormant zombie virus still could not successfully infect Spider-Man in such a severely injured situation. But it doesn't matter, anyway, he can kill him immediately, resurrect him as a zombie Spider-Man, and become Chen Lu's help in destroying the world. As a man who wants to destroy the world, mercy and kindness can be abandoned. If you are to infect 99% of the world's humans according to the requirements of the system, you will continue to kill more than 7 billion people directly or indirectly. At this level, there is nothing to cherish your personal life. Spider-Man is still trying to stabilize himself. Yu reading www.uakanshu.com was still muttering to himself. Okay, this is my daily life. I encounter this situation every day. Give me another 2 or 3 minutes, you can think of a solution. Cough, cough, cough. At the moment Chen Lu's metal claws hit, Spider-Man relied on steel-like willpower to shoot Spider Silk towards the exit of the alley, and pulled himself out of the alley with all his strength to avoid the final blow. But because of too much force, he slammed into the car on the side of the road and knocked the car door crooked. This abnormality naturally attracted a large number of onlookers on the street. Everyone looked at the dying Spider-Man in surprise, and several people took out their mobile phones to take pictures frantically. Hey! Spider-Man leaned on the car door, with blood flowing from the corners of his mouth, spit out a word with difficulty. Who can help? Get 911. I got a bit of a knife, hurt. Chen Lu also walked out of the alley. In order to hide his identity, he turned into a silver metal mask on his face. There was no pattern on it that made him look like a faceless man. After seeing the unique Chen Lu, the onlookers finally understood the danger, and immediately screamed and dispersed like birds and beasts. A few unlucky ghosts accidentally saw broken limbs flying across the alley, and the horrible state of their internal organs coating the wall was even more frightened while running and vomiting. It's over, little spider. Chen Lu stepped on Spider-Man's stomach and said, Spider-Man who has been injured like this finally has no room to dodge. Chen Lu pressed him hard against the car door, raised a sharp metal claw, and slammed it down toward his throat. Stop it! A yellow laser cannon hit Chen Lu's metal claws. The yellow light collided with the silver claws and produced a huge fire. Chen Lu resisted it hard, but in the end he couldn't hold back being beaten by the cannon for 2 steps. Immediately in front of him was a strong wind from the thruster, forcing him to raise his arm to protect his face. The flame of the thruster approached the ground and raised a large cloud of smoke. From the smoke, there was a red and gold color, and his chest was pressed. A blue sci-fi Iron Mech slowly appeared, and it was Iron Man who stood in front of Spider-Man. Iron Man Tony stretched out a finger to Chen Lu and said, Boy, I don't really care about any conflicts between you and him, but is there something that can't be solved by a good discussion? Chen Lu smiled. We talked, it was a pleasant conversation. Tony glanced at the Spider-Man who had completely fainted behind him and his life was like a candle in the wind and said, Not at all. I mean I am happy. Chen Lu took advantage of the moment Tony turned his head and opened the metal claws and swung a claw towards his chest. The silver claws exuding cold light grabbed the red mecha shell and made an unpleasant metal rubbing sound, which was better than using a nail on a blackboard. Tired is still several times more unpleasant. Chen Lu squeezed the claw hard and then pulled it hard, and 5 scorching sparks burst out on the chest of Tony's mecha. While the sparks were still flying in the air, Tony's left hand suddenly ejected a fist, hitting it. Chen Lu flew a few meters away. Chen Lu had to grab the ground with his claws, leaving 10 claw marks nearly 1 meter long on the ground before stopping. The sparks dissipated, and Tony's mecha had no more than 5 shallow white marks. Even in terms of styling, there was not much loss. Iron Man is too powerful for Chen Li who has just mastered the metallization ability, not to mention that he is currently in a state of fighting with Spider-Man. I'll give you a suggestion, kid. It's just stand up and don't move. Tony stretched out his hands to Chen Lu and opened 2 grid reflectors from under the mecha's wrist. 2 grids shining blue light shone Chen Lu's face with an overwhelming aura. In an instant, the sharp claws of Chen Lu's hands turned into 2 long knives. After the light of the knives flashed, the power grid broke neatly into dozens of rags in the air and scattered like snowflakes. Tony was taken aback after seeing Chen Lu's ability, and then his eyes lit up. Can you transform your body into metal at will? This ability is really great. Yes, for Iron Man Tony, who relies on exoskeleton mechas to fight, what ability can compare to the metallized ability that can transform himself from his body into a set of mechas? In this way, He doesn't have to wait for his mecha to fly over to fit and transform, and he can switch the mode and weapon of the mecha at any time during battle, which is simply convenient and powerful. There will never be an embarrassing situation of being shouted, "Put on the mech and then we singled out," or, "What are you taking off the mech?" Even if Tony can't see Tony's current expression, Chen Lu can guess that the other party is looking at him with the eyes of a white mouse. It's just that I'm obviously not Tony's opponent at the moment, so there's only one thing I can do, and that is just run. Chen Lu's two souls left two deep footprints on the hard concrete floor, and rushed into the alley at a speed faster than a cheetah, and disappeared at a corner. If an ordinary policeman encounters this situation, he would have long been dumbfounded, but standing here is the superhero Iron Man. He calmly ordered the artificial intelligence program Jarvis, call satellite monitoring, design the pursuit line. Route planning is complete, sir. Jarvis's efficiency is as high as ever. A hologram of the neighborhood was generated in Tony's mask in an instant, and Chen Lu, who was escaping, was marked on it as a red dot. Very good. Tony glanced at the hologram in front of him and smiled confidently. It is a great mistake for you to play hide and seek with me on the earth. Boom boom. From Tony's palms and soles of his feet, white flames like rocket launches were simultaneously ejected. Under the stabilization of the four thrusters, he slowly rose into the night sky, and then violently accelerated towards the alley where Chen Lu had drilled. Only a cloud-like pulling smoke was left in the air. In front of this guy who can easily fly faster than the speed of sound, Chen Lu's superhuman physique also seemed so small, and he was chased by Tony in a short while, flying close to the ground and flying side by side with him in the narrow alleys. Tony deliberately slowed down and said to Chen Lu, "Boy, I didn't mean to hurt you, at least not for the time being. All you need to do is go to my laboratory with me and ask me to draw some blood for an individual check." Iron Man, this thing is not something you should get involved. Chen Lu's most worried thing is that Tony found out the zombie virus on his body, and then, apart from anything else, he developed a vaccine to destroy the virus, so he would destroy the world. Just never want to achieve it. You reading www.uakanshu.com. You can rest assured, I promise that no one else will know about this. There is nothing in the world that can stop Tony's desire for research. What's more, he is facing the superpower he quite dreamed of at this time. He stretched out his palm towards Chen Lu, and the yellow energy glowed and condensed in his palm, and then a dazzling laser shot towards Chen Lu. This is the most commonly used weapon of Iron Man, the arc pulse gun, which can change the power by adjusting the output power. The terrible power at the maximum power is enough to evaporate people in an instant. Chen Lu raised his right arm to defend. On his elbow, a bright silver metal buckler quickly formed, facing Tony's arc pulse cannon. The hot yellow laser hits the shield and emits a dazzling light, and violent sparks continue to burst from the edge of the shield. Chen Lu, who is hiding behind the shield, can still feel this extraordinary heat wave. Your shield is really like the one made by my father. Drawing a star on it and spraying it with paint is almost the same. Even during the fierce battle, Tony was still in the mood to tease. Blocking this blow almost exhausted all the remaining biological energy of Chen Lu, but this was obviously not the limit of Tony, or the limit of his Iron Man mecha. He opened his fingers a little more, and the yellow laser shot from his palm suddenly doubled in thickness, and the sparks from Chen Luden's plate were about to become flames. Although the metal buckler could survive the laser, the powerful impact of the arc pulse gun made Chen Lu's body unable to hold it. A huge force pushed him against the wall on the side, pushing him down. Everyone smashed in, crashing down 3 walls before stopping. Chen Lu crawled out from the burial of a large number of broken bricks, and his body was covered with all kinds of small abrasions, but even with the high-speed self-healing ability, Chen Lu did not have enough biological energy to deal with these wounds. At present, the enemy must save even 1% of bioenergy, otherwise he will never escape. The only fortunate thing is that unlike Peter Parker, who relied on mutation to become Spider-Man, Tony Stark, as Iron Man, is a completely ordinary person himself. In other words, as long as the zombie virus in Chen Lu's body is 100% effective for Tony, as long as he can launch an effective attack, even if it is just a scratch, he can be infected with the touch of the virus into a zombie that completely obeys him. Only needs one time. This is the only chance for Chen Lu to win. But Tony's Iron Man mech shell is made of gold titanium alloy, and its hardness is simply exaggerated to the ridiculous level. Even the 20mm Gatling cannon on the US military's F-22 fighter could not penetrate his armor. In contrast, Chen Lu's superhuman physique was only enough to tickle him. Claws are enough to prove that normal attacks are not enough to hurt Tony. What should I do? Do I have another sharp gun? It is not realistic. First of all, the remaining biological energy is not enough to launch another violent blow that defeated Spider-Man just now. What's more, the biggest advantage of this move is the extremely fast shooting speed rather than super lethality. I am afraid it is still not enough to penetrate Tony's Iron Man mech. Think quickly, Chen Lu. Unearth all the potential of the metallization ability. Boy, you did a good job. It's a pity that you met the wisest and richest person in the world, me. While Chen Lu was still thinking hard, Tony also drove the mech into it. Inside the house, turned off the flight thruster and landed next to Chen Lu. The guy who just beaten me was very badly injured, don't you have to worry about him. In order to buy himself time to think, Chen Lu had to say some to procrastinate. Fortunately, Tony is also a superhero who likes to talk endlessly. Chen Lu's provocation is very effective. He began to ask artificial intelligence Jarvis. Jarvis, did you call my personal ambulance just now? Jarvis replied, yes, sir. At present, the ambulance is still 2,784.45 meters away from the injured, the traffic is good, and the first aid equipment is all normal. But Tony is still not very satisfied and said, seriously, I should consider installing a nitrogen accelerator for it. I don't want to wait for the ambulance to arrive slowly next time when it's my turn to get injured. Sir, you have clearly violated the 4th paragraph of Article 126 of the New York Traffic Regulations. While Tony and Jarvis were playing tricks, Chen Li's brain started to run wildly thinking about the solution of the problem. Metallization. It can transform any part of the body into any shape of biometal, so my body can be freely changed into sharp claws or long swords or shields and other shapes. This ability can greatly enhance the destructive power of moves. Cannot rule out. Freely changing metal shape derives the ability to freely change metal length, maximizing the speed of metal length change, that is, the speed of expansion and contraction, and the resulting move is to defeat Spider-Man's move sharp gun. Can this ability greatly increase the destructive power of moves? Yes, but limited, excluded. Expandable. Wait, stretch. Chen Lu opened his eyes and looked at his right arm, once again changed it to the shape of the long knife, and constantly changed the length of the long knife, making it longer and then shorter, continuously looping back and forth. Then Chen Lu began to slowly reduce the magnitude of the length change, so that the frequency of expansion and contraction slowly increased, and soon the long knife was thrust in the air at high speed like a pile driver. That's right, its frequency. Since the speed of expansion and contraction can be increased with the amount of bioenergy input, the frequency of expansion and contraction can also be controlled. The telescopic speed of the long knife has slowly reached the point where it is imperceptible to the naked eye, but this is still a long way from the effect that Chen Lu is expecting. Hurry up, hurry up. Chen Lu screamed frantically in his heart, one-handed unicorn arm for 18 years, it's time to unleash your true strength. The long knife produced a sound like a lightsaber waving in Star Wars, and then the sound became thinner and thinner, indicating that the frequency of the knife's expansion and contraction, no, at this time it should be said that the frequency of vibration is becoming higher and higher. The silver long knife was placed quietly on the ground, and the dust around the blade danced around the long knife due to the airflow generated by the vibration, wrapping around the blade as if the force of the wind was condensing on it. At the same time, the original silver of the long knife was also burned into a hot red color like molten iron due to the heat generated by the vibration, and it was possible to feel the heat energy enough to melt steel from it. High-frequency cut. Chen Lu raised his right hand, which turned into a long sword, and slashed fiercely at Tony, who was still chattering. The blade cuts in from Tony's right shoulder. Yu reads www. The collision between Uikonshu.com and the Iron Man mech produced a strong flame like a welding torch that could blind people's eyes. A large amount of white smoke of vaporized metal came out, and the tip of the knife ran across Tony's chest smoothly until it drew out underneath his left abdomen. No matter what material it is not uniform at the micro level. Therefore, if the high-frequency vibration of several kilohertz is applied to the material, there will be very subtle differences in the amplitude of the vibration in the uneven place. This subtle difference will cause the molecular force between the material molecules to be greatly weakened. Therefore, no matter how hard the material is, it will become fragile in this case and can be easily cut. This is the reason why high-frequency weapons are indestructible. Even the indestructible Edmund alloy that Marvel World claims can't resist high-frequency weapons. It's cut. Tony's Iron Man mech had a clean cut on the chest, and a piece of melted liquid gold and titanium alloy flowed out from the cut, as if it was red blood flowing from the mech. After the slash penetrated the thick mecha, only a cut scar was left on Tony's chest. This is enough. Chen Lu was immediately ready to launch his own skill Virus Touch, but at this moment, remaining bioenergy is less than 1%, enter a forced coma. Is not it? Chen Lu only felt the darkness in front of him, and an unstoppable drowsiness rushed into his brain forcibly, shattering his remaining consciousness to pieces, and his body lost all its strength and crashed down. If there is 1% more energy, it is a pity that this world has no ifs, only. Cruel reality. After Chen Lu fell, his right hand, which turned into a high-frequency knife, began to slowly return to its original state. It's just that it wasn't an intact right arm that appeared in the end, but a right hand that had a severely burnt smell and was roasted like black charcoal by heat. The dry skin seemed to shatter into powder with a slight pinch. It wasn't until Chen Lu stopped moving that Tony awoke from the shock of the slash just now. He touched the incision on the Iron Man mecha with ambiguity, and let out a heavy sigh of relief. This is the closest to death since he put on this Mk3 Iron Man mech. It is estimated that this record will not be broken for a long time. Jarvis reported to him, "Sir, the damage of the mecha is 33.7%, and the physical defense of the chest is completely ineffective. You should be thankful that you have not been chopped down to your small arc reactor just now." Yeah, Jarvis. The small arc reactor that Jarvis said refers to the blue emitting energy core on Tony's chest. In addition to providing energy for the entire Iron Man mecha, this little thing is Tony's indispensable. An essential life-sustaining device. Once this thing is destroyed, Tony will immediately lose the mecha and fall to his death. But the arrogant guy quickly changed his words and said, "No, Jarvis, in fact everything was in my calculations just now. If you are happy, sir." "Okay, Jarvis, plan the return route." Tony picked up Chen Lu from the ground, activated the Iron Man mecha's propulsion system, rushed into the sky with a boom, and flew to his home with Chen Lu. "Just tell me what time I can still catch up with the party, and I can't just make it tonight." Chen Lu doesn't know how long he slept, 1 day, a week, a month, it's all possible. The white walls, the wide and outrageous house, a lot of gorgeous decorations, and a gorgeous water curtain installation. When Chen Lu woke up, he was in front of him with the sight of such a luxurious villa, and he was lying on a soft sofa, looking out from the glass window behind him. He could see the endless beautiful sea. Only one person in New York can afford to live in such a desperate mansion on the peninsula. Tony Stark, the richest man in the world. And such a rich guy is lying drunk on the sofa near Chen Lu. Even the TV screen is not turned off. He sleeps like a dead pig without responding to the outside world. There must be a large pool of unpleasant vomit on the ground. Is his masterpiece. Tony's defenseless appearance naturally made Chen Luyang the idea of taking the opportunity to kill him, but after a system prompt came, Chen Lu could only show a helpless wry smile. "You have suffered a large dose of Tony Stark's drug injection, and you are currently in a state of full power seal and limb weakness." If Tony was killed without being infected with the zombie virus, then Chen Lu must have missed a good subordinate who could help destroy the world. Forget it, think about it. Since I received the task of destroying the world, I have been in a fierce battle state, and I haven't had the opportunity to think about the action plan. Just take advantage of the time to clarify the idea of destroying the world. I also have a tube of zombie virus stock solution. If this is an ordinary world without superpowers, then as long as this tube of zombie virus stock solution is thrown on the ground to create a large group of zombies, you can eat melon seeds and watch the show and wait for the world to be destroyed. However, this is the Marvel Universe, a fantasy world with many superheroes and supervillains like dogs. The superhuman beings who can destroy a city's zombies by themselves can't be counted with 2 hands. Want to destroy the world just by ordinary zombie frenzy? Really wishful thinking. Chen Lv must make a more long-term and more reliable plan to destroy the world. It cannot be expected to be accomplished overnight. There should be at least 1,000 superheroes or supervillains on the road to destroying the world to stop oneself. It's a little exciting to think about it. The first point is naturally to find a way to evolve into a virus matrix. At that time, I was forced to inject the zombie virus stock solution that I injected. Chen Lu could not directly mutate into the strongest virus matrix. He just became a special infected person. If he did not become the worst ordinary zombie, it can only be said that he is out of luck. Don't let it down. Anyway, the biggest feature of the zombie virus is infinite evolution, and there must be a way to further mutate Chen Lu into the virus matrix. The second point is to find a way to make Tony mutate into a special infected person who retains his mind. Tony's greatest role is his knowledge. As a purely human superhero who does not rely on any mutation, Tony's level of weaponry is really not covered. Even if he didn't become a zombie, Tony himself almost destroyed the world several times. Speaking of Chen Lu's best assistant, the best candidate must be Tony Stark. The third point is to conceal the zombie virus in his body. As a special infected person who can cause a city to explode at any time, he threatens the lives of billions of people. Once his identity is exposed, it will naturally cause countless superheroes to be besieged. These superheroes include the Hulk, who can grow infinitely in power, Thor, who is a god of thunder, Magneto, who can destroy the world with metal, and the Black Phoenix, who can decompose matter into atoms. Even if the system indicates that this is the universe world of Marvel, movie, UU reading www.uakonshu.com. But judging from dozens of movies adapted from Marvel Comics before and after, there are countless strong ones. But fortunately, this is the world of Marvel movies. If it is the world of Marvel Comics, then Chen Lu will have to face a group of real perverted creatures that destroy the entire galaxy in one blow, together with hundreds of planes. It can only be said that the tasks arranged by the system this time have been very kind. It is still impossible to let these know their existence. The identity of a zombie virus carrier is really too hateful. No human being on Earth will tolerate the existence of an unstable bomb like Chen Lu. However, at this moment, a piece of news was urgently interrupted on TV. A female reporter was reporting on the densely constructed New York streets. Behind her was a large number of military roadblocks. There were more than a dozen soldiers guarding the surroundings with guns vigilantly, as if a certain area of New York had been the military blocked it. Behind me is the entrance to Queens, New York. You can see a large number of soldiers holding guns to blockade here, preventing anyone, including reporters, from entering. The same situation also occurs at other entrances and exits in Queens. What is the current situation? Under what circumstances? The military has not yet come out with a spokesperson to give us an answer. The Daily Horn reporter Mary Jane Watson will continue to report for you. It seems that Peter Parker, Spider-Man, is a superhero active in Queens, New York. That is, the place blocked by the military is the place where Chen Lu fought yesterday. Slot. Chen Lu immediately realized the seriousness of the matter. There was a sudden commotion in the live broadcast on TV. I saw all the soldiers responsible for blocking the streets raising their guns as if they were facing a major enemy, and tensely hiding behind the cover to defend the front line. And what caused this to happen was just a figure walking swayingly on the street as if drunk. That's right, there is only one person, and the actions are very slow, not as if they are fighting. What happened? As a professional female reporter, Mary Jane pulled her camera crew closer to the person's shadow like a conditioned reflex. As a result, two soldiers rushed all the way and stopped the reporters with their bodies. Stand back. Keep back. This is a state secret and shooting is not allowed. After the strange figure in the screen, it only appeared for a short time, and it was still very far away and it was not clear. However, relying on his superhuman dynamic vision, Chen Lu managed to see the abnormality of this figure clearly. This person who swayed like a drunk had a large number of purple blood vessels bursting out of his face, his skin was pale without the slightest blood, and there was an obvious excessive amount of saliva flowing on his mouth. Needless to say, this look is the classic look of a zombie. It's over, the virus has broken out. Now Queens, New York, should be a dead city where zombies are rampant. The cause of the virus outbreak is probably the group of gang members who were killed by Chen Lu at the beginning. It seems that the ability of touch of virus is a passive ability. Had it not been for two superheroes, Spider-Man and Iron Man, to spoil the situation one after another, Chen Lu would have had time to dispose of all the corpses carefully. Why didn't I have a good person who came to save me when I was chased by that group of gang members? When it was my turn to kill, these superheroes jumped out one after another. Chen Lu hugged his head and complained angrily in his heart. All this is like a destiny. The system has been decided, and you will be the villain who destroys the world, full of the feeling of imperial determination. Now that the existence of the zombie virus has been exposed, the world has realized that this virus will inevitably threaten the safety of all mankind and drastically change the course of global history. Then the US government, superheroes, supervillains, mutants, ambitious capitalists, and so on, will all wait to dig out the culprit Chen Lu. I believe that no matter which side it falls into, what awaits Chen Lu will be the life of an experimental animal like a guinea pig. The current situation is that Chen Lu will either be destroyed by the world, or he will destroy the world by hand. There is no other possibility. Mankind will never allow the heterogeneous that Chen Li can bring racial threats to coexist with them, no matter how much good he is willing to do, how much he contributes to mankind is useless. People infected with zombies and humans are destined to be deadly enemies. This is not a war between right and wrong, but a natural competition between species to determine who can survive. At this time, in the live TV screen, things have developed further. The perplexed and wandering zombie seemed to perceive the human breath here. Driven by the instinct of the virus in the body, it began to stagger towards the direction where people gathered. Coming closer. Quick, give the lens to that person. Mary Jane, a female reporter at the scene, immediately smelled the big news, and drank to the cameraman behind her to let him lock the lens on the approaching zombie. At present, due to the distance too far, the picture is still very blurry, but if it evolves like this, tomorrow's headlines will turn, New York burst into a crisis. News like, as full. This situation is definitely not what Chen Lu wants to see. One less person knows about the existence of the zombie virus can make him more concealed. He couldn't help shouting at the TV screen, "Don't lean over, give me back." Quote. A miracle happened. The originally dangling zombie suddenly stiffened and stopped all its movements like playing a game of wooden people. The original hideous expression was also completely dull, and then it took a few steps back carefully like a soldier who received the order, and then again. Stopped stiffly again. Am I controlling him? Chen Lu remembered the explanation about the viral touch of his skills. Skill 1. Virus touch. Use a tooth or finger to pierce the enemy's body and inject the zombie virus into the opponent. It is an ordinary person who mutates into a zombie within 24 hours, and mutant humans are particularly resistant to the virus. Zombies mutated from this skill will unconditionally obey your orders. Was able to give orders to these zombies through the screen. Chen Lu immediately continued to order the zombie that appeared in front of the reporter to continue to retreat, but this time he only needs to think in his heart that the zombie can act according to his thoughts. In less than a minute, under Chen Lu's command, the zombie rammed into the alley and disappeared without a trace, causing all the media staff present to sigh in disappointment. Very good, finally temporarily stopped the report about zombies from coming out. Yu reading www. Yuakanshu. Calm. Chen Lu sighed in relief, leaning on the soft luxurious sofa, and slumped there comfortably. But think about it carefully that the entire Queens area is infected. Even if the US government wants to block the news, it can't be done. It was just a little delay. But after another thought, it seems that New York's Queens has a population of more than 2 million. According to the theory, Chen Lu will have 2 million more zombies to control. Think of Chen Lu's ability to make these 2 million zombies attack the US military's defenses together with a single thought. It is estimated that the entire population of New York can be infected into zombies overnight, and then New York is a stronghold. Tone spread the virus throughout the United States and even the world. I think it's a bit beautiful, it will definitely not go so smoothly. Whenever such a major event that destroys the world occurs, there will definitely be a large group of superheroes standing up in unity, shouting together to fight for the people of the world and then crush their conspiracy. Therefore, the current Chen Li's idea is to let this group of zombies temporarily fend for themselves, and it is best not to let others associate themselves with the zombie virus, otherwise the consequences will be disastrous. This determines Chen Lu's main policy of destroying the time of the Marvel movie universe, acting low-key and planning secretly. First defeat the powerful group of superheroes, and then consider infecting those powerless people. Without the existence of those extraordinary heroes, ordinary humans have no resistance at all in front of the zombie virus. And to understand the weaknesses of a group, the best way is naturally to infiltrate yourself. From the moment Chen Lu made this decision, a superhero who was kind and friendly on the surface and loved by others, but was forever planning a conspiracy to destroy the world was born. Chapter 11. Just when Chen Lu was intoxicated with building his own grand blueprint for destroying the world, Tony, who was asleep on the sofa beside him, seemed to be disturbed by the commotion just now. He closed his eyes and stretched his waist and sat up straight from the sofa, yawned and woke up slowly. Tony groaned as he just woke up, staring at Chen Lu with sleepy eyes for a long while, before saying as if he was taken aback, "Oh. I said how could there be someone next to me? Man, scared me to death. Don't tell me what you did to me." Chen Lu said a little bit irritably, "Isn't this what I should ask, Mr. Tony Stark, who knocked me out and moved to my own house? It stands to reason, should I sleep in a certain prison at this time? The hospital bed, not your living room. Excuse me, if I can use it, the government's needs must come first." Tony said lightly about his incredible power, and then he fumbled around for a few times before he took out a medical record-like document from under the sofa. Patting his head to make himself sober and said, "It's really not easy to take care of you. For the past week, I have been injecting you with nutrient solution 10 times the normal human needs every day, so that your body's various indicators can show normal. You have to thank me very much. Doctors in the hospital would never dare to do this. Also, in order to make you a little more honest, I also used 10 times the amount of anesthetic. It seems that the effect is not bad." Chen Lu checked his body. Although all the body's abilities were in a sealed state due to the restriction of anesthetics, the bioenergy in the body was indeed supplemented to 100%. He then asked, "So, do you find anything about my body?" Tony looked at the medical records and replied, "You have a completely abnormal wound recovery rate. I want to give you the result that the wound healed as soon as the incision was opened. It is a super troublesome ability. The cell sample taken from your body is similar to normal humans. The structure of the cell is completely different. The nucleus is greatly reduced and the number of mitochondria and centrosomes is outrageous. The ratio of various blood cells in your blood is also very abnormal. The platelets disappear completely, and the individual red blood cells are greatly enlarged. To be honest, although I found a lot of strange things, but I still don't understand how your body works. This is much more complicated than my Iron Man mech." Chen Lu was finally relieved to hear this. It seems that Tony has not discovered the culprit of all this, the existence of the zombie virus in his body. Otherwise, even if he would lose a good helper to destroy the world, he must kill Tony immediately. The current situation is quite good. Like this, Chen Li can slowly wait for his skills to recover, and then find an opportunity to use the touch of the virus to mutate Tony into a zombie hero who takes orders from him. "Okay, kid, let's talk about the abnormality of your body." Tony threw the medical record away, found a high-tech transparent mask on a nearby table, and asked Chen Lu while standing, "Now we should talk. Talk about what you did that night a week ago. Why did you kill all those people?" "Because they want to kill me." Feeling that there is nothing to conceal about this kind of thing, Chen Lu confided that he was hunted down by gang members and only concealed the zombie virus stock. After listening to Chen Lu's story, Tony pressed a button on his high-tech transparent mask with one hand and asked, "Jarvis, how is the polygraph reading?" A synthetic male voice replied in his mask, "All readings are normal, there is no conditioned reflex to lie, sir." Chen Lu shrugged and wanted to use a polygraph against humans to detect whether a zombie was lying. Tony really has a naive side. Chen Lu himself can feel that he can't be regarded as a human at all today. He can only be regarded as a zombie virus individual with all the memories of the human being once named Chen Lu. But Tony doesn't know all this yet, so he has to believe everything Chen Lu said for the time being. As a superhero who created the Iron Man mech because of the threat of being kidnapped by terrorists, and was able to escape from his life by killing all the terrorists in the mech, Tony felt the same for Chen Lu's experience. However, he was still surprised by the cruelty of Chen Lu's treatment of those gang members, and couldn't help asking, I understand that those people deserve to die, but if you kill them in such a cruel way, do you have no fear in your heart? This is really a good question, and it can also help Chen Lu to forge a reasonable story about the source of superpowers. He decided to tell a big lie here. If successful, it may allow Tony to turn his attention to another well-known villain organization, and at the same time make this superhero who has become a little sympathetic to relax his vigilance. That's not cruel, Tony, Chen Lu said to Tony expressionlessly, and began to tell the cruel lie he had conceived in a nonchalant manner. If you were asked to kill with a pistol when you were 8 years old, when you were 10 years old you were forced, the close friends who grew up together killed each other. At the age of 12, they had to carry out the assassination mission independently, and finally escaped the control of the organization exhaustedly but were shot to death on the street by a group of punks. You will understand what cruelty is. Sure enough, Tony swallowed a slobber and was completely shocked by the terrible childhood in Chen Lu's words. He silently pondered for a while before asking, which organization did all this to you? Body Modification and Killer Training, E.H. Hail Hydra, long live the Hydra. Chen Lu uttered a famous slogan in the Marvel world. No matter what kind of big conspiracy or plot in this world, there is always nothing wrong with throwing it to Hydra. Anyway, this supervillain organization will not run over by themselves to tell their mortal enemy Tony Stark that Chen Lu is not his own. Later, when Chen Lu used his advantage as a traverser to reveal the secrets of the Hydra organization in advance, this identity could also be used as an excuse. In short, this scapegoat Hydra is backed up. Hydra, I have heard of them. Tony touched his chin and said thoughtfully. From here, the timeline of the entire Marvel movie world has not progressed to the stage of Avengers 2. As a Steel Tony the Shah has not yet become an enemy of this huge organization. Surprised by the magical power Chen Lu possessed, Tony asked him. Hydra has been able to create such a powerful mutant. Chen Lu immediately sold Hydra's message without hesitation. In fact, my superpowers were awakened after I escaped from the organization. Before that, there were 2 Hydra-transformed mutants that I knew better. They are a pair of siblings. The older brother has supersonic movement speed, and the younger sister is able to confuse others' minds. Anyway, all of what he said is a real movie plot. No matter how Tony verifies, he can only conclude that Chen Lu is not lying. Hydra is an ancient super-villain organization in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It was once affiliated with Nazi Germany in World War II. Later, after failing in World War II, it successfully sneaked into S.H.I.E.L.D. and continued to plot a big conspiracy to rule the world. This super-villain organization has also created some powerful transformations of humans, such as the Winter Soldier Bucky, Scarlet Witch Wanda, Fast Silver Pidlow, etc., but the above 3 finally converted and joined the Avengers and became the proud Marvel superhero. There is always a feeling that the heroes of the world are out of 9. When these supervillains from Hydra decided to reform, they were easily accepted by other superheroes in the Avengers. Even the Winter Soldier Bucky, who is still under the control of Hydra to kill innocent people, can be regarded by Captain America as a good man by nature and will not hesitate to fight for him against the US government's pursuit. In fact, not only the Avengers, but also the entire Marvel Universe, there is a kind of influence complex. Almost every superhero thinks that when a villain who was once full of blood and doing evil, one day consciously stops doing bad things and starts to do bad things. After the people serve, he can be accepted as a superhero without any qualms unless his relatives have been killed by the villain. Among them, especially those killers who have been kidnapped and trained by villains since childhood are most prone to probation. Such people are not really hopeless, but they have never felt the warmth of the world. This consensus exists in almost every superhero. In his mind. Therefore, Chen Lu's narration of his Hydra background did not arouse Tony's greater wariness, but instead made him more sympathetic. The overwhelming sympathy is basically a common problem of superheroes. Whoever has no sympathy goes to the streets to punish evil and save others. Tony hesitated for a while, and finally decided to try to influence Chen Lu, a typical black and evil chess piece. He said, well, you can stay here for the time being. Although you have not prepared your room, you can still sleep on the sofa. Yes, this is the safest place in New York. Those stupid Hydras will not dare to break in. Or all in Chen Lu's expectation. It is really the plot trend of a standard American superhero movie. Follow the normal process. Then Chen Lu was moved by Tony's kindness, determined to work hard to become a qualified superhero, and eventually died in a battle with evil forces. Chen Lu can pretend to accept this process, and forget it at the end. After all, he is not a real Hydra killer. Chen Lu routinely asked, "Why, do you want to help me?" "No, I just want to study you and figure out how your superpowers work." The kind superhero replied proudly, or he knew that superheroes should hide their kindness so as not to be exploited. "Before I figure out the source of your superpowers, please stay here obediently." "Forget it, I don't want to be taken back by the organization." Although there was already a joy of trickery in his heart, Chen Lu responded with a blank expression on his face. At this stage, there are indeed countless people hunting him down, and I believe it will indeed include Hydra. "Very good, thank you for your cooperation." Tony patted his palm, freely tidied up the messy table, put down the transparent mask and said to Chen Lu, "When someone brings lunch, if you don't have enough food, you just call it yourself. Don't worry about the price. After lunch, come down to the basement and look for me. Let me test your superpowers." After finishing talking, Tony walked to the basement of his house. It seems that he needs to prepare various test tools first. Since Chen Lu came into this world, he hasn't had time to test his new abilities. He just took this opportunity to learn about it. Of course, he is not going to show it all without reservation. He plans to use only 50% of his power. After enjoying an outrageously luxurious local tyrant-style lunch, Chen Lu came to the basement, where Tony was already wearing Iron Man mecha and waiting for him. Tony took out a syringe and gave Chen Lu a shot, and he felt that the effect of the anesthetic on his body quickly faded. To be honest, Chen Lu had the urge to attack Tony and take him down in one fell swoop, but Tony still seems to be wary of him. The Iron Man mech has also been updated to the stronger Mk4 generation. I am afraid that the ability has been prompted again. Agreed, it is estimated that there is no benefit to Rashleigh. The most difficult thing is the flying ability of the Iron Man mech. So far, Chen Lu can neither fly nor have any effective long-range attack methods. As long as Tony activates the flying thruster, the game can be declared over, so Chen Lu has to temporarily put down the sneak attack. Thoughts? So the test started smoothly. At the beginning, it was the most conventional test of strength, speed and endurance for ordinary athletes. It is measured that Chen Lu's clean and ability is about 2.5 tons, that is, the actual strength is about 5 tons, which is about 10 times the human limit. Captain America's clean and ability is 500 kilograms. Then the speed is 150 kilometers per hour, so the full force is 300 kilometers per hour, which is slightly faster than high-speed trains and the like. Needless to say, endurance, Chen LV can maintain its peak state before the bioenergy in the body is exhausted, without any decay. Tony said while observing the data on the computer. Okay, the values are 10 times the limit of humans, as expected. Boy, by the way, I haven't asked your name yet. Chen Law. Okay, I'll call you Chen. Boy, come here. Tony said he wanted to call Chen Lu Chen, but it seemed that the name of the boy was already called Shunko, so he stood by one. The steel doll said in front of him, "Next, let's test your cool metal changing ability, it's a good thing." According to Tony's instructions, Chen Lu first changed his arms into various shapes such as sharp claws, long knives, and shields, and changed them freely. To transform any part of the body into any shape of biometal, this is Chen Lu's ability as a metal mutant. Since it is a substance that does not exist on the Earth biometal, it is natural to test the various values of this metal. Interestingly, the hardness and density, even elasticity and flammability of biometals that are changed by the old laws can be controlled. It's just that the increase of all these values requires more bioenergy to make changes. After Tony's test, the performance of 500 grams of biometal is as follows when 15% of bioenergy is invested. High hardness biometal. The hardness surpasses gold titanium alloy, the main material of Iron Man mecha armor, and even surpasses the hardness of diamond. High density biometal. The highest density is 24.48 times 103 kg per meter, surpassing the world's densest metal osmium. However, when the high-density metal is manufactured, the density of other parts of the body will be reduced, and the law of conservation of mass will still be maintained. High elasticity biometal. 5 times the elasticity of ordinary rubber. There is almost no loss in the conversion between the deformation force and the generated elastic force. Highly flammable biometal. The explosive power is equivalent to the same amount of nitroglycerin (TNT) explosive, and it is extremely unstable. Simple friction can lead to a terrible explosion. This is crazy, kid, Tony said, looking at 4 different shapes of biometal on the table, his fingers dancing in the air to record some data, and then he took out a scanner-like machine and swept it up. The 4 metals you made are substances that don't exist on the Earth, which is too exaggerated. I didn't expect it to be like this. This sentence is true. When I first saw the metallization ability from the system, Chen Lu thought it was just a liquid metal ability similar to the Terminator T-1000. But it was a god-level superpower that involved the realm of creation. Skill 3. Metallization. Transform any part of the body into any shape of biometal. Biometal cannot maintain liquid form for a long time. It seems that if any 2 words are added to anything, it will not be a simple thing. Jarvis, the result of the scan? Tony asked, pointing to the empty wall, and immediately came Jarvis's artificial voice prompt from the air. The scan revealed that the atoms in the 4 biometals are in an unstable state, and it is expected that they will be decomposed into atoms and disappear completely in an hour. Oh, it's a pity, it seems that I still can't use your biometal to make mechas. Tony showed a regretful expression, but soon turned back to normal and congratulated Chen Lu. Congratulations, kid, if your biometal does not disappear within an hour after being separated from your body, you will definitely be dug as a mine. Tony's words are by no means alarmist. If the biometals separated from Chen Lu's body can be used as materials by others, then Chen Lu is equivalent to a hen laying golden eggs infinitely. Besides, these biological metals are countless times more expensive than gold. Attracted the prying eyes of all the careerists in the world. Don't worry, I'm not here. Tony smiled against Chen Lu's suspicious eyes. Humph. Next is the skill test. Tony took a few steps away from the iron doll and raised his hand to indicate that Chen Lu could do it. Chen Lu flicked his right hand, and a silver-long knife glowing with cold was unscathed, and Chen Lu lifted the steel doll's forehead, like an executioner about to execute. Ohm! The long knife began to stretch and vibrate at a high speed that the naked eye could not catch. A strong wind blew in the closed basement. The high-speed vibration caused the blade to generate extremely high temperatures. The heat energy filled the entire blade and turned it into a hot red. Tony couldn't help wearing a mask due to the heat wave turbulent in the air. High-frequency cut. The blazing red streamer flashed through the body of the steel doll, and it felt like cutting tofu without encountering any resistance. It wasn't until Chen Lu took the knife to restore his arm to its original shape, when a luminous incision appeared from the head of the steel doll and extended to the crotch. Then, with the molten iron flowing out like blood, the hard steel doll was neatly laid out. Split into 2 halves and fell to the ground. Tony looked at the steel doll on the ground in surprise, spread his hands and said, although I have seen it for the 2nd time, this power is really, wow. You Americans are really lacking in vocabulary, but sometimes it is true that 1,000 words are not enough to say. The power of the high-frequency cutting is indeed the best, but its consumption is also huge. Just starting the high-frequency knife consumes 10% of the biological energy in Chen Lu's body. According to Chen Lu's estimation, the form of the high-frequency knife needs to be maintained at 1%. Sec rate continues to consume bioenergy. That is to say, even a full state of Chen Li can only support the energy consumption of a high-frequency knife for 90 seconds. But no matter how indestructible the blade is, it is meaningless if it can't be cut. Therefore, when fighting against agility enemies, Chen Lu has another ultimate move: Sharp Spear. The principle is to use biological energy to increase the expansion and contraction speed of the blade, and only 20% of the biological energy can reach the supersonic stab speed. Actually, compared to speed, the biggest advantage of the sharp gun is its suddenness. Not only the right hand, but any part of Chen Li's body, behind, elbows, legs, chest, etc., can use a sharp spear without warning, so it can be said to be a wonderful sneak attack. Of course, it is impossible to demonstrate this kind of tricks to Tony, who is one of the targets of the sneak attack. Next, kid, come and test the power of your fist. This time Tony walked up to Chen Lu, puffed up his chest and motioned to him to throw his fist with his Iron Man mech as the target. No change is allowed. A sharp weapon, Just try it with your fist. Fist. I don't need to use such a weak move. Since Chen Lu can change any weapon at will, why do I need to use a fist? Tony shook his head and said, what you need. Not every time you have to kill someone else, sometimes it is better for you to keep someone else's life appropriately. Well, it's another cliched probation session. It seems that Tony wants to correct Chen Lu into a regular superhero who is not easy to kill. But now that you have decided to act, let's play with Tony. Chen Lu clenched his fists and punched Tony in the chest with 50% strength. The collision between the fist and the mecha produced a deafening loud noise, and a lot of cracks appeared on the floor under Tony's feet, but he just stood there motionless, as if Chen Lu's fist was just tickling him. Hold hard, you just finished eating. Tony looked at his undamaged Iron Man mecha happily, and continued to induce Chen Lu to take action. Isn't this guy just using me to test the defense of the mecha? Seeing Tony's satisfied expression, Chen Lu couldn't help thinking like this. Indeed, a fist with 10 times the strength of ordinary people is quite suitable as the target of the Mk4 Iron Man mech's anti-strike ability test. Well, if you can live with it. Chen Lu suddenly thought of a bad idea, maybe Tony can look at it a little bit. He metallized his right hand with a silver steel fist and swung his arm in the air twice. Seeing Chen Lu's treacherous expression, Tony was also a little nervous. Wait, we only use fists when we say. Yes, it's just a fist. Before the words fell, Chen Lu's arm suddenly exerted force, and the iron fist was still unpretentiously pushed toward Tony's chest. Tony saw that Chen Lu didn't play tricks, and was really honest and practical. Fist attacked him, and he was relieved and boldly greeted his Iron Man mech. He is quite confident of his Mk4 mech defense ability, and it is impossible to be fisted. Puff! The collision between the iron fist and the mecha produced a shock wave visible to the naked eye. In Tony's horrified sight, his Iron Man mecha was squeezed by his fist and quickly dried out, and the crushed circuit burst into protest. Then he flew upside down like a smashed volleyball, smashed a big hole in the basement wall, fell into the sea behind the house and hit a few water floats on the water before he plunged into the sea. Such a powerful blow, of course, was not something that Chen Lu could do with physical power alone, but instead used his metallization ability. The reason why the fist is metallized into an iron fist is not to increase the hardness of the fist, but to adjust the metal density of the iron fist. In the case of becoming biometal, Chen Lu can adjust the density of any part of the body to the maximum, that is to say, can infuse all the body's weight into the fist. So if Chen Lu first adjusted the density of his fist to the minimum to throw his fist, and then suddenly adjusted the density of his fist to the maximum when his fist reached its maximum speed, according to the formula of kinetic energy equals 1/2 speed squared mass, then the power of the fist will also increase exponentially as the density of the iron fist increases exponentially. The weight of the arm was originally only about 1/10 of the body's weight, which means that the power of this iron fist has skyrocketed 10 times. 10 times iron fist. Chen Lu looked at his completely squashed right hand and gave a wry smile. It seems that the balance between density and hardness is still not well adjusted. He shouted towards the sea again, "Hey, are you all right?" Tony rushed out of the sea with a lot of splashes, but there was a sparking fist mark on the chest of his Iron Man mech. It seems that even the permission of the propeller was intermittent due to the damage of the mecha. He had to stay steady in the air with his teeth and claws. His actions were both funny and embarrassing. Despite this, Tony still said very stiffly, "It's not a big problem, I can do it myself." Artificial intelligence Jarvis reminded him, "Sir, the damage to the mecha is 15.3%, and the left-hand thruster is damaged. I suggest you seek help from others." "Shut up, Jarvis," Tony yelled angrily, struggling to adjust his body to stumble and fly on the sea. "I know what's going on, I can do it, wow wow wow." Pump. Tony accidentally plunged into the sea again and again, gurgling bubbles on the bottom of the sea. The scene was once very embarrassing. In the end, Jarvis transferred 2 intelligent Iron Man mechas for Tony, and replaced him with a set of mechas on the seabed, so that the face-saving Mr. Iron Man successfully flew back to the shore. At this time, his mecha was seeping seawater from the inside to the outside, and a few seaweeds were still wrapped around his hair, looking quite embarrassed. "Okay, I think the test will be over here. I have to take a good bath and have a few banquets tonight," Tony said while pulling the seaweed from his hair. Then he took out a syringe filled with dark green liquid from the table and gave Chen Lu another injection. You have received Tony Stark's special anesthetic injection, and you are currently in a state of full power seal, limb weakness, and unable to get angry. What's the matter? I changed the trick again. At the moment when he received the system prompt, Chen Lu knew that Tony was not giving him the same anesthetic this time. Tony explained. Yes, it is a new product that just arrived today. It is said that it was a special drug that the military studied to anesthetize a certain fat green man, but in the end it failed because the needle couldn't get into the monster's body. I checked. Its ingredients should not cause much damage to your body. It's not practical for you to do this. If I want to kill you, I won't even need a fork. Tony shrugged and said, who knows? Then he left Chen Lu alone in the basement, took off his mecha and went back upstairs to take a shower. Chen Lu touched his neck helplessly. It seemed that it was not easy for Tony to expose his flaws. The good news is that through this test, Chen Lu has a better understanding of his abilities. Metallization derivative technique gunsling. Ultra high-speed, unpredictable long knife stab, which can be sent from any part of the body, and consumes more than 20% of energy. Metallized derivative technique high-frequency cut. The indestructible cutting ability is powerful enough to smash most defenses and consume more than 10% of energy. Metallized derivative technique 10-fold iron fist. A heavy blow that strengthens its ordinary boxing power 10 times, its power is limited by weight, and consumes about 5% of energy. These three are the main derivative skills of the metallization ability currently understood by Chen Lu. These three tricks alone are actually enough to deal with most of the superheroes in the world, but it is a pity that Chen Lu has to face not a single superhuman, but all the human inhabitants in this world. From this perspective, Chen Lu's seemingly strong ability is probably even embarrassing to save his life. A long way to go is to describe the current situation. The remaining bioenergy is less than 10%. After an intense physical ability test, the energy in Chen Lu's body has also bottomed out. When he returned to the living room, Tony was long gone, and social celebrities like him couldn't stop for a moment. Chen Lu had to order himself a super large luxury dinner. The boy who delivered the meal looked at the table full of delicacies of mountains and seas with surprise and envy, which also left a deep impression on Chen Lu. The life of a local tyrant is really not bad. Chen Lu forks a piece of fresh lobster meat and put it in his mouth gracefully. My current appetite is much larger than that of humans, so I can enjoy these rare delicacies slowly. Anyway, even if all the items on the menu were repeatedly called 10 copies, it would not cost a billionth of Tony's fortune. It would be great if I could order Chinese food that suits my appetite next time, but American Chinese food, let's forget it. After dinner, night had fallen. Chen Lu left a messy dining table and took a comfortable bath. When he returned, the living room was neatly cleaned up. According to Tony, this spacious living room will be Chen Li's room in the future. Fortunately, his high-end sofa is also very comfortable to sleep, and it is quite a good treatment. Chen Lu relaxed and lay on the sofa, letting go of his thoughts and gradually fell asleep. Master, Master. In the dim darkness, Chen Lu seemed to hear someone shouting the word, Your Majesty, and his voice grew louder and louder. Finally, he suddenly opened his eyes and found himself standing on the roof of a building. In the distance, you can see many luminous and prosperous high-rise buildings, but the city under my feet, dominated by bungalows, has fallen into a dead silence without light. The bustling city and the dark city are only separated by a thin line. They are two completely different worlds. The familiar pattern allowed Chen Lu to understand where he came, Queens District of New York, which was completely blocked by the military. This place should be spread and infected by the zombie virus in Chen Lu's body and turned into a dead city where zombies are rampant. Why was he called to this place? The host. Chen Lu turned around alertly when he heard the call behind him, only to find that 3 men and 3 women were kneeling on one knee respectfully, bowing their heads to him. Among the 6 people, there are humans with 3 skin colors, yellow, white, and black. This is not surprising. The Queens District of New York itself is a multi-ethnic settlement. There were 3 men and 3 women in front of him. The men were handsome, and the women were charming and charming. Their appearance was no different from ordinary people, but they all exuded some inhuman aura. At least Chen Li could tell at a glance that they were all infected with the virus. Welcome, Master. The 6 kneeling people shouted in unison. Chen Lu is too bad to be able to guess what happened. He looked around and said, "Are you the only 6 who have recovered their sanity?" Since Chen Lu can inherit all the memories of Chen Lu when he was a human, it is very likely that other zombies can also rely on the human memory before infection to recover their minds. The 6 people in front of them fit this situation very well. Their bodies seem to have undergone virus transformation, but their clothes and behaviors are no different from humans, and they can even be said to be very good at dressing themselves. This is obviously accumulated during the period of being a human. Down experience. The first young man wearing a brown hood, black jacket and gray jeans replied, "Yes, master. There are currently 1,504,382 zombies in Queens, New York, and only 6 of us have evolved from the most common zombies, inheriting the human memory before the infection becomes a mutant infected person." "Oh, sure enough. Since you inherited human memory, you should hate me very much." "No, no, master." The young man lowered his head tighter, and said very firmly, "From the moment we regained our sanity, we knew that we were no longer humans, and at the same time we understood that you are our master and must obey all your orders. Even the master can obliterate our sane at will and change back to a puppet without self-consciousness." "That's it. So what if I said that in order to avoid the destruction of this world, let all of you die again?" Chen Lu asked with interest. The 6 answered in unison without hesitation, "Absolutely obey." "Haha." Chen Lu smirked a few times and approached the group of infected people with their heads down in awe. "Don't worry, you are my only compatriots in the world. I won't give you up so easily." Chen Lu reached out to support a young girl's chin and slowly raised her face. The young girl squinted her eyes cutely like a cat being petted, and her beautiful face became more charming. But Chen Lu just retracted his finger silently, turned around and said with a bit of compassion, "It's a pity. A species so similar to humans is destined to not coexist with them." The young man wearing a hood asked suspiciously, "Does the master think that we should not be enemies of humans?" Chen Lu smiled lightly, waved his hand and said, "How could it be? When you were a human being, would you think that it was a mistake for humans to exterminate the variola virus? No one would think that way, right? Because for both humans and variola virus, it's a war where there is no right or wrong, but life and death. Nature has always been like this. What's happening now is just a repeat of history, but we are a little smarter than the smallpox virus." "Your will is our will, master," the 6 said, maintaining a uniform rate of speech. At this time, Chen Lu realized that the palms in front of him were not the ones he was familiar with. He continued to observe that this body was not the body of a special infected person named Chen Lu. He moved his fingers and asked, "I only have consciousness coming. With this body, how did you do it?" The young man replied, "This is a special body that we have modified with a virus. It can attract the master's soul to lodge on it, and of course it can easily leave. However, the degree of body mutation cannot be compared with the master's body. It is only capable of exerting 1/10 of the body's strength. This body's strength is currently only at the same level as ours. I am extremely sorry, my master. 1/10 of the strength. As a stand-in who can be abandoned at any time, this level is quite good. 1/10 of the strength of Chen Lu's body means that the body is at the limit of human level and has a greatly weakened metallization ability. Anyway, it's safer to act with a stand-in. Well, what's your name?" Chen Lu asked the hooded young man. "Alex. You did a good job, Alex. Now talk to me in detail about the situation in Queens." According to Alex's report, Chen Lu understands that the military has now surrounded the entire Queens area, with tight defenses on the inner and outer 3 layers. If only ordinary zombies are sent to attack, it's probably meat buns and dogs. There is no return. The military does not seem to be in a hurry to launch an offensive on Queens. The pressure of public opinion, the source of the virus, vaccine research and other issues are enough for those politicians to quarrel for their own interests for a long time, and it is estimated that they will not be reached for a long time. In conclusion, as a result of receiving orders from Chen Lu to hide themselves, the 1.5 million zombies in Queens are hiding themselves as much as possible, and will not even take the initiative to attack the settlements of some survivors, is responsible. They continue their life of refuge in this dead city. Also from time to time, some mercenary squads will break in and take some zombies back to do live research. What purpose they intend to use depends on which company sent them. Well, I understand. Chen Lu put his chin in one hand, and gave his first order to the queens after a little thought. Lead other ordinary zombies to clean up the survivors' settlements so as not to attract them. Here are a few superheroes who like to be nosy at home. As for the mercenary squad who broke in, try to avoid the situation where they can successfully take away the living zombies, and ambush and destroy them as soon as they are found. Yes, Master. The 6 people replied in unison, and then dispersed to execute Chen Lu's orders, leaving only Alex to be responsible for Chen Lu's guide. This mysterious and cold man whose face is partially covered by a hood always gives Chen Lu a sense of mystery. It seems that as a mutant-infected person evolved from the most basic ordinary zombies, Alex knows a lot of things that even Chen Li doesn't know. Fortunately, he will absolutely obey Chen Law. Alex, do you know what conditions are needed to evolve into a virus matrix? Chen Lu asked him about his first action target. Perhaps these infected people who have experienced evolution will understand the conditions required for evolution better. Virus, Master. As expected, Alex really knew something. Just swallow the virus that has the same powerful ability to transform the human body as the zombie virus, and merge its dominant gene with the zombie virus. The virus in the owner's body, it can successfully mutate and evolve to become a more powerful virus parent. If this is in the ordinary Earth world, I am afraid it would be difficult to find a virus that can greatly modify the human body. But in the mad scientists everywhere, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe with countless black technologies, there is such a virus that fully meets the conditions that Alex said, the Extremis virus. The Extremis virus debuted with the Marvel movie, Iron Man 3, and the person infected is also the main villain of the movie. The function of this virus is to quickly heal wounds and even regenerate limbs. At the same time, it is supplemented by the special ability to emit ultra-high temperature heat from all over the body and even cause the body to produce violent explosions. Once the human body is infected with the extremity virus, the virus will replace all human systems, which is quite it as a super soldier serum. It is really suitable to make it a step up to the zombie virus. Alex, you know a lot. Chen Lu sighed to the mysterious man in front of him. Why would he know so much? Alex explained. Actually, I don't know, Master. I am the first zombie to evolve self-awareness. From the moment I become a mutant-infected person, everything is in my mind. There is no doubt that this is the ghost of the system. Alex is the guide created by the system to explain the role of the zombie virus to Chen Lu. He will guide Chen Lu how to make the zombie virus evolve to a stronger state step by step, and ultimately destroy the world. Anyway, dealing with Alex, as long as Chen Li has this idea, he can erase his mind at any time without worrying about loyalty. Of course, the same is true for other mutant-infected people. Suddenly the sound of the propeller's rotation approached here. Chen Lu and Alex looked up and saw that a Black Hawk helicopter painted with ink like black paint was passing through the night sky. It was obviously another group of money-obsessed mercenaries came to die for their gold master. After all, this mysterious existence must have attracted the attention of a large number of ambitious capitalists. Every living zombie caught here should be able to sell for a good price. But Chen Lu doesn't want them to do too much effective research on the zombie virus. He flexes his hands and said, "Let's go, Alex, let's greet these new friends." Okay, Master. 2 black shadows jumped from the towering building, falling to the ground at a very high speed, but in the blink of an eye, the 2 black shadows disappeared at the same time, as if they had been integrated into this dead and dim night. The Nighthawk helicopter rappelled in an empty park and slid down 6 heavily armed mercenaries one after another from 2 steel cables that dropped to the ground. They had assault rifles, submachine guns, shotguns and other light-fire weapons in their hands. At the same time, he also carried heavy firepower weapons such as Gatling heavy machine guns, anti-material sniper rifles, and even special combat equipment such as explosion-proof shields and smoke bombs. Obviously, he was well prepared for any emergencies. Such a well-equipped special operations squad is rarely seen even in U.S. military missions. The first soldier to repel seemed to be the captain of this mercenary squad. He ordered all the members, "Stand by here first." The Black Hawk rises up to scan the area, and then plan the battle plan after receiving the scanned map. The pilot of the Black Hawk received the order, pulled the helicopter up in the air, and started a certain scanning procedure. A blue laser shot from the bottom of the helicopter to the ground, and then turned into a blue circle to spread around. Come, this is probably the area scan in the mouth of the mercenary captain. At this time, a soldier in the team who looked like a rookie cowered and asked, "Captain, do we really need to take this mission? The Queen's area is currently recognized as a black hazard warning area if any monsters appear." Quote. The mercenary captain sighed and said, "My boy, if Hanmer Industries didn't place an order with us for a living zombie for $500,000, I wouldn't want to bring you to such a ghost place. Don't worry, we don't. Greedy, just grab two and go back. $1 million is enough for us to enjoy for a while." A big man with a heavy machine gun at the back of the team also walked over and patted the new soldier on the shoulder, raised something like a miniature missile launcher on his arm and said, "Don't worry, my friend. We are also equipped with Han weapons developed secretly by Hammer Industries, Sidewinder missiles with Cyclone explosives ex-wife, powerful enough to blow up a bunker and a bunker hidden further down, the crystallization of Hanmer's industrial technology, the Eiffel Tower of weapons, Romani, etc. I forgot the words. Anyway, there is nothing that an ex-wife can't handle. Trust my friend." "Shut up, big man, you are almost brainwashed by that salesman." Another member of the team vomited to him. The big man nodded. "Perhaps I should go back to my hometown to find a salesman job after finishing this ticket, and spend the second half of my life honestly and spend the rest of my life with my family or something. Hee, I hope I can be an American military officer or something. Then I wish you an early death for your country." During the time they were chatting nonsense, the Black Hawk helicopter also completed the scanning work. The driver reported to the captain of the mercenary, "Captain, most of the zombies in the nearby area are moving in groups, and those who were alone are also leaning in the direction of the group. Do they know? We are observing them. Fortunately, I still found two completely alone zombies. They are 500 meters away from your 11 o'clock direction. Okay, let's act now. Go, go, go." Under the command of the mercenary captain, 6 mercenaries ran in the direction of the target in a row. Soon this group of people ran into a narrow alley. Everyone held their guns and walked cautiously. Little Wing Wing had to overturn even a trash can to carefully check the trash inside. However, there were not too many shelters in the semi-enclosed alley, and there were no traces of zombies at first glance. The captain of the mercenary put his hand on the in-ear communicator and asked, "Black Hawk, we haven't found any zombies here. Is there something wrong with the scanner?" "But, Captain," the pilot on the Black Hawk sweated profusely and looked at the scanner screen in front of him. The blue dots on it, indicating the friendly forces, and the red dots indicating the enemy, had already overlapped and formed a ball. He said nervously, "I show here that you have come into contact with the enemy. Could it be that?" The mercenary captain who received the news immediately realized what was wrong. He suddenly raised his head and looked towards the roof of the alley. Under the bright full moon, 2 figures were standing tall and proudly looking down at them. The hands of one of the teenagers turned into metal claws reflecting the silver moonlight, while the other man with a hood had 2 indescribable weird tentacles growing from his back. Both of them are obviously not normal human postures. The 2 are Chen Lu and Alex, who have made plans to lure the enemy deeper. The 2 leapt from the top of the building at the same time, staggered and jumped on the 2 walls of the alley and quickly descended into this mercenary team. It happened so suddenly that all 6 mercenaries were stunned for a second. Only then did I realize that I was attacked by an enemy. "Shoot!" the mercenary captain roared out as if to tear his throat. However, Chen Lu had already fallen by a mercenary, and he quickly swiped the mercenary's waist with his eyesight. A smoke bomb was unplugged and flew out, with a white smoke strip bounced back and forth between the 2 walls several times, and the whole alley was immediately enveloped by diffused smoke. The few mercenaries who suddenly inhaled the smoke almost couldn't help coughing, and the fingers that were about to shoot also left the trigger slightly. The mercenary who was snatched from the smoke bomb resisted the urge to cough and tried hard to lift the assault rifle to Chen Lu's face, but it was undoubtedly a wrong choice to lift the gun at such a close distance. Chen Lu's metal claws clasped the muzzle and flicked it aside. The mercenary's bullets all missed and hit the opposite wall. At this time, he decisively abandoned the rifle and pulled out the 9mm pistol from his waist. Unfortunately, he only picked up the pistol. Halfway through, Chen Lu's fist clenched with metal claws hit his forehead wearing a bulletproof helmet. 10 times Iron Fist. The fist completely squeezed the mercenary's head into the wall behind him with unstoppable force. The shattered bricks were ejected like bullets. This unlucky ghost's head and the shattered bulletproof helmet were left on the wall. After a basketball hole, the cervical spine was twisted into a very weird posture to connect to the neck and head, and it was almost impossible to die. At this time, the mercenary captain took the lead and took the shotgun in his hand and shone a shot on Chen Lu's chest. However, Chen Lu's reaction was still a step faster than him. He changed his right hand into a metal round shield to protect his chest in advance. A large number of iron collided with the metal buckler and shot out fierce sparks. The impressive impact of the shotgun also repelled Chen Lu by 2 steps, but it still couldn't bring any practical damage to Chen Lu. Crack! Taking advantage of the gap where the shotgun bullet was loaded, Chen Lu rushed towards the mercenary captain. However, this mercenary captain is also a battle-tested man. Even in the face of imminent danger, he still kept calm. Retracted the shell of the shotgun, pointed the barrel at Chen Lu's forehead, which was about 1 meter away from him, and clenched his teeth. The trigger. Facing the large caliber gun barrel that was about to spit out a strong tongue, Chen Lu still dashed forward without evading his face, waving the metal claw of his left hand, tearing the air and patted the mercenary captain. I saw the rapidly dancing metal claws quickly deformed and reorganized in the air, turning into a cold glowing silver long knife to extend the range of attack and cut precisely to the barrel of the shotgun. Pong! The shotgun bullet roared past Chen Lu, blasting the wall behind him into a hole and a half-meter wide. The mercenary captain also reacted decisively at the sight of a missed blow. A small step staggered away from the attacking Chen Lu, and there was still room to pull out his pistol during the action, and fired several shots in an attempt to force Chen Lu back. These bullets blocked Chen Lu's shield without any suspense, but it also gave the opponent a chance to breathe. The mercenary captain took the opportunity to take out the grenade and pinch it in his palm to surprise Chen Lu. Idiot! Unexpectedly, Chen Lu let out a cold snort, took a step forward with his left foot, and his right foot was a rapid high kick. The ups and downs of the feet turned into a cold sharp blade, smoothly passing the mercenary captain's wrist. The palm of the hand holding the grenade was thrown into the air, and after losing nerve control, the fingers were quickly released, followed by the triggering of the grenade fuse and a violent explosion. Boom! The blast dissipated the smoke in the alley, and at the same time caused the mercenary captain to be blown to the ground. The shock wave washed all over his body in bleeds, obviously unable to survive. After the smoke cleared, Alex on the other side also executed the 2 mercenaries next to him with their tentacles. Both victims had their tentacles pierced directly through their hearts, and blood gushed out happily, forming a plot on the ground. Water like blood pool. At this time, there are only 2 people standing in the mercenary squad. One of them is a rookie soldier holding a riot shield and a big man holding a Gatling heavy machine gun. At this moment, they were all completely shocked by the massacre in front of them, sweating profusely at the fallen companions and powerful enemies with unknown strength, their bodies almost unable to move under the control of fear. Big man, it was the seemingly timid rookie soldier who reacted first. He seemed to have realized that he couldn't retreat all over his body. He gritted his teeth and shouted with death will, "Leave me alone, gun." Before the big man understood what he meant, the rookie soldier rushed forward towards the 2 monsters with a shield in both hands. He wanted to use his life for the big Gatling heavy machine gun to win the fire. Warm-up time before. This sprint is undoubtedly a death charge with no return. Even if Chen Lu and Alex didn't kill him, the Gatling heavy machine gun that successfully fired later would surely shoot him into fragment. That is not a kind weapon that can distinguish the enemy from ourselves in such a narrow place. Even if only 1 person survives. This is the last thought of the rookie soldier. He yelled to embolden himself, but this voice only lasted less than a second. Drink. Ha! The silver long knife that Chen Lu turned into with his left hand glowed with afterimages and emitted a hot glow. The crimson blade hit the dark explosion-proof shield, but it just drew it very carelessly, and the blade cut through the rookie soldiers. The shield and body were as easy as passing through the air, as if steel and flesh and blood were nothing but tofu as fragile. In the doubtful eyes of the rookie soldier, he could see his upper body struggling to fall from his waist, but he didn't feel any pain or even saw a drop of blood flow out, but his body was indeed magically cut in 2. Am I dreaming? In the dim feeling, the rookie soldier lost his last consciousness in a blackness. However, his death did buy the big man extremely precious time. Under the big man's tearful and hideous face, the 6 barrels of the Gatling heavy machine gun began to turn quickly, hanging from the chain on the shoulders. It disappeared quickly like being sucked in by a black hole. Countless bullet shells were thrown into the air, and the huge tongue of flame formed by the 6 barrels made the bullets poured out like a storm. Die. The gunfire illuminated the entire alley, even more dazzling than in daylight. The Gatling heavy machine gun exerts its terrifying firepower, with a rate of fire of 100 rounds per second, which makes it shoot out bullets that are denser than heavy rain on Chen Lu's body. Chen Lu had to squat down and hide all his flesh behind the metal buckler to block this powerful shot. Ding 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 ding. A large number of heavy machine gun bullets were poured on the metal buckler, and sparks splashed and bounced on the walls on the left and right sides, making deep pits and throwing up large pieces of dust. The silver sleek metal round shield quickly turned into a charred black, and the surface slowly began to deform and twist. The powerful impact generated by a large number of bullets also made it difficult for Chen Lu to move forward, so he could only put more biological energy into it. Maintain the hardness of the shield. 1/10 of the power is not used to it. Alex. Received, Master. Alex's tentacles suddenly appeared among the smoke and broken bricks. Like a lurking poisonous snake, the big man who was shooting wildly now rushed straight over. The big man's reaction could not be said to be swift, dragging the heavy machine gun in the fire, and successfully avoiding the bad luck of the heart being directly penetrated, but the right hand is inevitably pierced by the tentacles. Ah! I saw that the big man's right hand pierced by the tentacles began to dissolve like it was doused with concentrated acid. The whole arm instantly lost its strength and hung weakly, and the dissolved flesh spread rapidly from the part where the tentacles penetrated into the body. Come! He knew that he must not have the slightest hesitation at this time, decisively drew out the paratrooper knife with his left hand and chopped off his dissolved right arm. The blood splashed all over him, and the severe pain made him almost unconscious, but his name was finally settled. It is temporarily saved. In the face of today's desperate situation, the big man lost all the other options he could think of. He desperately raised his left hand, activated the Sidewinder missile launcher on his wrist, and aimed directly at Chen Li, who was charging at him again. If this missile named ex-wife really has the kind of lethality he described. To explode at such a distance is definitely to involve yourself, and the best result is just to die. Blow him up, ex-wife. The missile the size of a pen on the generator began to spin fiercely, and the roar before launch was as shocking as the launch of a satellite rocket, and the powerful propulsion seemed to be able to remove all the launchers together. In the end, this final weapon finally struck Chen Lu with a long tail flame. It was obviously a missile with thick fingers, but it created the momentum of an atomic bomb. Ding! The big bang expected, it didn't happen. The only sound from the shield was really like the sound of a pen being thrown over and hitting it. The missile, ex-wife, was easily bounced off by the metal buckler, and it fell to the ground without even a single spark, plunged into the blood pool, puffed and sparked, and then there was no more. Are you kidding me? This sad and angry roar became the last sentence in the life of a big man, and it is also a distinctive last word. I hope there is no hammer industry in heaven. The battle was over, and Chen Lu and Alex set out to clean up the battlefield. Alex's ability is to rebuild and decompose the flesh. As long as he pierces the body with his tentacles, he can activate his ability. It can be a good doctor for saving people or a fang for murder. Now Alex is reorganizing the mercenary corpses that were torn apart in the previous battle, so that they can have full combat effectiveness after mutating into zombies, a good housekeeper in a sense. Alex, will these people who were originally soldiers mutate into zombies a bit stronger? Seeing Alex repairing the corpse so diligently, Chen Lu asked him suspiciously. Yes, Master. Not only that, if they have experienced quite a few battles, humans with stronger mental will have a chance to skip the ordinary zombie stage and directly become a mutant infected person like me. It's just that it appears in this case. Mutated infected persons will be more heavily affected by human memory and will not be so loyal to their masters. I suggest that their masters eliminate the mentality of some rebels as appropriate to avoid this situation. That means that after creating a zombie hero with autonomous consciousness, they may not be able to obtain their complete obedience from the body to the spirit. It is possible that they can only get the puppets with empty bodies, right? It doesn't matter if it's a hero with low intelligence like the Hulk. It would be too wasteful for an IQ character like Iron Man Tony to get his body, or it would be meaningless at all. During the period of Chen Lu's thinking, Alex repaired the bodies of 6 mercenaries. Regrettably, even the mercenary captain with the most combat experience did not directly become a mutant-infected person as Alex said, but just stood up again as an ordinary zombie. A faint sound like a leak came into Chen Lu's ears and he immediately searched for the source of the sound, but was surprised to find that it was the ex-wife in the pool of blood. Suddenly, the missile reappeared a few times again, accompanied by a hint of white smoke rising. Alex. Boom. A huge mushroom cloud formed by flames suddenly rose in the alley, and the shock wave from the explosion blew up the 2 buildings that formed the alley into ruins. Several mercenaries who had just been resurrected as zombies were ruthlessly torn into pieces and thrown out. I am afraid that even the skeletons are not complete. There was a rain of mud in a radius of several hundred meters, and the smoke of gunpowder enveloped the entire area. Ahem. Alex coughed a few times and got up from the ground, but was surprised to find that there was not much injury on his body. When he looked up, Chen Lu, who was turned into hard biometal, stood in front of him and carried him down. For most of the shock waves, of course, the price was that half of his body was blown into a scorched black. Master. Chen Lu interrupted Alex. He lifted the metallization of his whole body and turned back into a scarred flesh, and ordered him, find some food for me. I need to replenish some biological energy. Alex's lips trembled, and he stopped talking for several more rounds, but in the end he hadn't figured out what to say, so he could only agree to a yes, and ran away anxiously to find food. It's just a person who is loyal to him. Even the master's stand-in would not want Chen Lu to be injured for him. Although he doesn't care what he feels, Chen Lu just doesn't care. After swallowing the food that Alex found, Chen Lu finally recovered some bioenergy to stand up again, and the injured part of his body healed at a speed visible to the naked eye, and in a short while, he recovered his intact body. Suddenly, there was a mysterious call in Chen Lu's mind. Master, Master, Chen Lu asked suspiciously. Alex, what's the matter? This is the spiritual link between the mutant-infected person and the owner. Only if the owner concentrates a little bit, he can hear what they say. Alex replied respectfully. So Chen Lu closed his eyes and listened carefully to this voice. Sure enough, as Alex said, the original vague call became clear. Even Chen Lu himself understood how to communicate with these mutant-infected persons mentally. Mutated infected person spiritual link. Female infected person. Master, have you heard me? Chen Lu. Okay, let's talk about it. Female infected. Master, most of the survivor settlements in Queens have been cleaned up. But here in Flushing we encountered a little trouble. About 40 or 50 humans occupied a supermarket and a gun store as a fortress, and our zombies could not enter it temporarily. Chen Lu. Okay, I'll go over and take a look. Chen Lu opened his eyes and returned from the spiritual link. He picked up the 2 9mm pistols dropped by the mercenaries from the ground, threw one of them to Alex and said, Let's go, Alex, we go and see how troublesome it is. A few minutes later, Chen Lu and Alex walked to the roof of a large pharmacy, where 2 female mutant-infected persons were waiting for them. Seeing Chen Lu's arrival, the 2 women immediately knelt down on one knee respectfully, expressing loyalty to Chen Lu. Where are they? Chen Lu looked down from the top of the building, and saw a large supermarket that was tightly paved with wooden planks, and all the unsealed windows were guarded by guns, towering across the street. Even though the entire power grid in Queens, New York has been paralyzed, the supermarket is still brightly lit, and it seems that it has its own civilian generators. Looking through the window, one can see the situation inside. There is still a considerable amount of food on the shelf. For a while, this group of people will not need to go out to find supplies. The infected female reported to Chen Lu. This group of people has gathered here for almost a week. The entrances and exits of the supermarket have been blocked by them and have been fortified. It is difficult for our zombies to break in. A family connected to the supermarket. The gun shop was pierced by them and took out a large number of weapons. Now they have at least 40 people with guns. Then the most difficult thing is that the leader of this group is a man with a compound bow. He is experienced and has extraordinary skills and strength. Above are mutated infected. Therefore, we dare not act rashly. I beg the master to make a decision. The man with the compound bow. Chen Lu looked into the supermarket through the window, and in a short while, he found a man with a black compound bow and a complicated quiver full of science fiction. He was having a heated discussion with a group of green men with guns. This man is wearing a handsome dark sleeveless leather jacket. The special pockets on the top show that this dress has a certain tactical effect. There is a multifunctional belt around his waist, which is easily reminiscent of special forces equipment. The left palm is also covered. Wearing special gloves with fingers wrapped around them, it seems that they are specially designed for bow drawing. This tailor-made equipment exposed his identity as a superhero, and there is only one superhero in Marvel world who specializes in the use of bows and arrows: Agent Hawkeye of S.H.I.E.L.D. Eagle Eye is a member of the world's greatest superhero team, the Avengers. He is good at using a bow and arrow that can shoot all kinds of black technology arrows as a weapon. He is very good at sniping. Although he himself is an ordinary person who has not received any transformation, he can always appear in the vanguard of the Avengers by virtue of his fighting skills and combat experience that can be ranked at the top in the whole Marvel world. If he is there, I'm afraid this stronghold will not be so easy to take down. Maybe Hawkeye was accidentally trapped here while performing an ordinary agent mission, but his presence did give Chen Lu a clearing up of survivors. Brought a lot of trouble. If what is here is my ontology, that's not a problem. But now, Alex, gather all. Can the mutant infected take this place? Quote, Alex thought for a while, nodded and said, yes. But the person holding the bow is powerful, and the strong attack may cause casualties to our mutant infected. At present, only 6 mutant infected persons were born from the 1.5 million zombies in Queens District of New York. They are all excellent pawns on Chen Lu's road to ruin the world. Even losing one is enough to make Chen Lu sad for a while. However, an excellent fighter like Eagle Eye must be able to directly evolve into a powerful mutant infected person after being infected, and Chen Lu didn't want to miss this rare mobile phone meeting alone. At this time, Chen Lu suddenly remembered something, and turned to Alex and asked, this man, Hawkeye, is there an army trying to rescue him? Yes, the owner of. At that time, a helicopter came, but Hawkeye gave up the opportunity to get rescue, and chose to let the wounded and children board the helicopter and leave, and stay to protect the group of survivors. It is also under his leadership that this place will be transformed into a fortress with such a good defense. Sure enough, Hawkeye, as an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., could not fail to get rescue from S.H.I.E.L.D., but his superhero mentality caused him to stay voluntarily to protect the masses. I am afraid that Hawkeye is still entangled with S.H.I.E.L.D. Bureau so that SHI. But this also means another thing. That is, if Hawkeye is willing to give up this group of survivors, S.H.I.E.L.D. will definitely rescue him from here as soon as possible. And if what they rescued was not the Eagle Eye in a normal state, but the Eagle Eye infected as a zombie, then Chen Lu would have placed a pivotal undercover in S.H.I.E.L.D. Bureau. In order to verify his conjecture, Chen Lu asked, Alex, is there any obvious difference between a mutant infected person and an ordinary human? Will it be seen through at a glance that it is not a human? Our body temperature will be lower than that of normal people. In addition, even if we conduct sophisticated medical investigations, we will not reveal our identity. Unless humans develop a device that can identify zombie virus infection, even if there is such a device, at least sampling should be performed. It can only be distinguished by a blood test. Yes, it's perfect. The Eagle Eye chess piece, Chen Lu is about to decide. Alex, who was standing by the side, seemed to see through Chen Lu's thoughts, and cautiously asked him, is the master planning to attack here? I immediately gathered the 6 mutant infected persons, and summoned all the ordinary people nearby who could be reached. Zombie. Chen Lu smiled, looking at the heavily guarded and superhero-guarded fortress in front of him, but he looked at the meat on a chopping board, and said lightly, there is no need to spend so much effort on such a small stronghold. Alex, you and I will be enough to solve this. A girl who was also a mutated infected person knelt down anxiously upon hearing this, and said, forgive me, master. That man named Hawkeye, he alone can be worthy of an army. The master only has 10%. A substitute for the strength of the body, it is quite reluctant to be an enemy. Our lives can be sacrificed at any time, please allow us to summon zombies to attack. An army. Chen Lu smiled happily, looking at Hawkeye, who was arguing fiercely with other survivors through the supermarket window, and mocked coldly, "If he is alone, then it is indeed comparable. An army. But those survivors with him. Just an incompetent guy bound by hands." Alex had no doubts about Chen Lu's self-confidence, but he still dutifully reminded, "Understood, Master. No matter how many times your substitute is damaged, as long as there are zombies in the world, you can transform another one. Come out. And my life, please use it as you please. Don't worry, Alex, I didn't plan to take you to death." Chen Lu pointed his finger at his temple, and said slyly, "My stand-in is only 1/10 the strength of the body, but the head number. Let us prepare for a good show, a scene full of ignorance, betrayal and cannibalism." U.S. Eastern Time, 1:23 a.m. Hawkeye, whose real name is Clinton Francis Button, is now in a huge trouble. A few days ago, he chose to let the helicopter sent by S.H.I.E.L.D. to take away a few wounded and children. He has become the only life-saving straw for the survivors of the supermarket. Everyone ran away almost every day. He asked when the military's large-scale rescue would arrive. In fact, Hawkeye has been with his superiors several times for this matter, and the answer is always, helicopters are on standby at any time, and large-scale rescue is still in the parliamentary discussion stage. Parliamentary discussion. Hawkeye knows how long it takes for these congressmen who are arguing for their own interests to discuss the results, but he can't defy the orders of his superiors to take people away by helicopter round by round, so he has to stay to protect this group all day long. Panicked survivor. Fortunately, they currently live in a large supermarket, and they also get a lot of weapons from the gun store next door, and they have enough supplies to hold on for a long time. Hawkeye has also been guiding everyone to arrange the fortifications of this supermarket. No matter how large a corpse tide is, it is impossible to easily attack it. Everyone, the army's rescue forces are still being assembled, and they will definitely come and rescue us. What we have to do is to defend here and wait until this day comes. Hawkeye told everyone a lie that he didn't believe, but only in this way can this group of panicking people be calmed down a little bit. Boom, bang, bang. A series of gunshots from outside the window caught everyone's attention, and everyone hurriedly looked out from the second-floor window. I saw two men rushing towards the supermarket in a panic, with more than a dozen zombies behind them. One of them was a yellow-skinned boy who was about 18 years old, holding a 9mm pistol, and fired several shots at the zombies who were catching up behind him, exploding the heads of several zombies very accurately, and used their corpses to slow the pace of the zombies behind. And another mysterious man with a hood and unable to see his face rushed towards the supermarket gate with his head buried behind him. The boy with a gun seemed to have spotted the survivor in the supermarket. He shot behind him and shouted for help. "Open the door. We need help." As a superhero who punishes evil and promotes good, Hawkeye certainly does not sit and watch civilians die in front of him. He drew his bow and arrow from his back and jumped directly from the second floor. The body was still stuck in the air, and the two sharp arrows were already out of the string, piercing the foreheads of two zombies accurately. Chen Lu. This arrow technique is really good. Alex, how sure are you to attack him now? BR greater than. Alex. 0. I'm sorry, Master. Hawkeye fell to the ground dexterously, and his light posture was even more elegant than a gymnastics champion. He first grabbed the man with the hood by the wrist and threw him into the supermarket gate, where other survivors were in charge. Then he strode forward and rushed in front of the young man with the gun in an instant. The compound bow in his hand was similar to a scepter-like melee weapon, and it slammed into the group of zombies. Slash, stab, pick up, cut off, turn around, slash. Every action can take the life of a zombie, there is nothing superfluous. Hawkeye ravaged every zombie in front of him like a wolf entering a flock of sheep. In less than a minute, there were more than a dozen zombie limbs and fragments on the ground. No injury or even hairstyle mess. Is worthy of being a superhero, and the evaluation of one person for an army is really not covered. Are you okay? Hawkeye asked with concern when he came to the boy with a gun. It's okay, but brother, you are really cool. Hawkeye obviously didn't listen to these beautiful words. He smiled friendly and pushed the boy with the gun and said, "Let's go in, it's not safe here." So two new members were added to this survivor fortress. After confirming that neither of them were bitten, all the survivors showed a very friendly attitude. After a brief introduction, Hawkeye learned that the brave boy with a gun was named Chen Lu, and the mysterious man with a hood was named Alex. Both of them ran out of food at home, went out to explore and met by accident, and then they were chased here by zombies. I almost thought I was going to die there, thank you very much. Oh, especially you, cool uncle, what is your name? Chen Lu pretended to greet each survivor with a friendly expression, of course also took the opportunity to get close to Hawkeye. Just call me Hawkeye. Hawkeye's attitude is a little cold. He himself is not a person who trusts others so easily. This is a good habit he has cultivated during his long career as an agent. At this time, including Hawkeye, the group of survivors who added new members to their group and laughed, still didn't understand how terrible they were welcoming two demons. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.